Greetings, I'm Barrett and welcome to Meet Me at the Table. Today we're going to be doing our playthrough of Kings of Ruin. We are jumping into the very first chapter. I am not going to be doing the prelude kind of learn to play. If you're interested in seeing how that plays out, please check out Ryan over at Meeple Marathon. He just finished a video on the prelude learn to play of this game. You can check that out and he goes through every part of the prelude and the exactly how to play manual, which is absolutely fantastic and it teaches you a lot about Kings of Ruin. In this playthrough, we are going to play with two characters. We're going to play with Elgin and we're going to play with Gerdwin. Those are our two characters. They were voted on by my Patreons. Those two characters did get the most votes for people they wanted to see play in this game. And we are going to play two players, so we're going to be playing two-handed because I am the only person playing. Before we start, we are going to show you exactly kind of how to set this game up, and then we're going to dive right into Chapter 1. Before we do, I would like to thank Awaken Realms because they did send me a review copy of this game to be able to do this video for you. Once I have concluded the first chapter in Kings of Ruin, Colin and I are both going to be joining, or he's going to be joining me live to be able to play this game together, and we're going to go all the way through Kings of Ruin because this is the game we have been waiting for since we heard about it and we backed it, and we're super excited to dig into it together. But I wanted to get this first video out for everybody to show you exactly how Kings of Ruin is played. And if you're excited to do that, then I need you to meet me at the table. When you begin the game, you're going to choose the character or characters you're going to play with, and yes, you can play this game true solo if you're interested. But like I said, we are going to be playing with two characters. The first character is Elgin. Each character has their own player board with a unique set of stats over on this side. Also, you have unique skills that you're going to be having as well. Looking at our character, I quickly want to point out all the things you're seeing here. First, you're going to see the yin and yang type of skills over here. We have aggression and empathy, caution and courage, and practicality and spirituality, and all of these kind of balance each other. If you notice, there are cubes already set into these. You're going to put your cubes into the starting chevrons of these skills, and as you go forward, you can use the experience points that you gain to gain more of these certain types of skills. But for every cube you place in here, it's going to go up in cost based on the amount you have in either one of these. So it's not just going to be what you have on one side. So if I wanted to go up on this, it would be having to put my fourth cube in here. And if you're putting something into a place like spirituality where you already have two cubes, you're going to gain a special bonus over on the side, but we probably aren't going to dig into those right away. But as you play through the game, you're going to be getting extra bonus skills on the sides if you're able to, if you decide to go that route when you gain experience points. Also up here, you're going to see our health points is starting at the top, and these are our energy points. They start with 6. And as you go forward and play through the game, if you ever take damage and you get to the end and you need to place your energy up, you're only going to be able to put energy up to where your health is shown on these little L-shaped maneuvers here. So that is, those are these two stats. Energy is going to be used for your daily activities and things that might happen during the game. For example, I can use, every character has a set of skills on their card, and they also have a detriment. So he has a skill here that says that he can use 2 energy to be able to pay 1 food, which is a resource down here, to gain a weird candle consumable item as long as there are some available in the consumable deck. And then that is an item that he could use, but he of course has to make it using energy and food. The other thing you see is your terror track, and this is going to potentially go up as things happen to you that cause detrimental damage to your psyche, your terror. And if you get to the top, you could potentially go insane, and there are rules built around that. Along with going to the bottom of your health track, you are going to become dying, and there are rules that govern that as well. The other thing you see is we have a place to put all of our resources: food, wealth, experience, and magic. Each of these are going to be used for certain things during the game. We have 2 different decks of cards. One is our combat deck, and the other one is our diplomacy deck. Each character has a unique set of cards, and you can tell what cards they are by if you take all the different cards out there. When you open the game, you're going to find that there's a lot of Elgin cards, and some of them are advanced cards, and some of them are basic cards. And and you're going to look for the 10 cards that have a B in the corner. Those are Elgin's starting cards for his combat deck. You're going to do the exact same thing for the diplomacy deck. You're going to look for B on the bottom for Elgin's starting diplomacy deck. And I'll show you exactly how these cards interact with the game when you come to combat and diplomatic encounters as we play through the game. Each character also is supposed to take a map, but I'm only going to use one because then I can use that map for everybody that we have. Also, you're going to take a stat sheet as well, a starting letter. Each character does have a starting letter. It kind of gives you a little backstory on the character and maybe a little bit about what they're doing in this world. And I'm going to read both of our backstories for our characters before we start the adventure, but I first wanted to get the entire setup of the game done first. With Elgin complete, let's move on to Gerdwin. This is our second character. This is Gerdwin. Gerdwin, again, if you notice, does have different skills attached here. So every character is completely different. She also has a different power here. I can hunt. I can spend 1 energy to challenge a combat in your or a connected location and gain 2 cubes at the start of the encounter, and you'll kind of see how that works when we do our playthrough. She also has a detriment that's called overloaded. After you travel, if you have less than 2 energy, you are going to lose 1 health. So she is a little bit overloaded. So you don't want to have her go too far down. Otherwise, she's going to start taking this extra damage. Now, I did forget to mention that Elgin also has a fear of the weird. When you resolve a lightning bolt effect inside a weird location, which is like an instant effect, you're going to gain 1 terror. Also notice that Gerdwin does have a different set of starting resources compared to Elgin. Elgin had 2 food and magic. She has 2 food and a wealth. Her cards are, again, those basic deck of 10 cards. And she also has a letter to talk about her past and her adventure here so far. And we'll look at that in just a moment after we finish the setup. But that is all I have to tell you about Gerdwin. Oh, except for one thing. They all have miniatures. This is Gerdwin's miniature. Now, sadly, I apologize. I don't have these painted up yet. I just closed the poll on my Patreon to see who we are going to play with. And so now that we know who we're playing with, I'm going to be doing a painting video on how to paint up our characters. So we also have one for the candlestick maker as well, Elgin. But for now, they are going to be gray miniatures, and I do apologize. But if you're interested in seeing how a good way to paint these up fast, you can check out my live painting video that I hopefully will have a chance to do sometime this week at the time of this recording. The next thing we're going to do is set up our starting location. Our first chapter does begin on card 101. And if we look at the map that we have that was given to us, we have seen that this area is right down here. The shunned lands is down here in this area of the map. So our story is going to take place down in the lower area of this map because this is the shunned land ready to go. It does say to start with the clear side up. If you notice, this one is clouded. It's covered in weirdness, which is going to cause you issues moving into it. It'll cost you terror and health and things of that nature. So you have to find a way to be able to clear these cards of weirdness. To do that, you're going to be using some of these waystones. So as you go through the game, as you notice over in the corner here, if you can put a waystone in this corner, it's going to connect to 4 cards potentially that will then clear the weirdness of those areas. Of course, if these ever disappear during part of these stages of the game, you're going to reclaim these cards to weirdness or even discard them completely if that is how it goes. We do have our starting location ready to go called the Shunned Lands. And we have connected card number 102 as shown here on the card. Each card does have a little flavor text to it. So it says, once a fertile farmland, now a dreary waste punctuated by the wooden carcasses of abandoned windmills. And of course, they all have different abilities and things that could happen on this card. And we'll go through those once we start our adventure. But do know this is the first starting adventure, the first chapter, and these are the cards we're going to have available to us in the first area we're going to be. I'm just going to put our characters there for now. And of course, I'm not supposed to put them there. We'll take them off later, but I'm pretty sure it's where we're starting. On the playmat, there are places where you can put some of your cards. Now, I've kind of adjusted this a little bit based on the fact that I use all sleeve cards that I got with the all-in Kickstarter pledge that was given to me by Awakened Realms. So all my cards are sleeved. It told me to put the consumable and card A out here as well, and the secret cards. These are all the different locations we can go to. I just put them there. Now, normally you're putting all your items in these areas right here where you can put items B and C or D and E if it tells you to as the game goes forward. And your secret deck is actually supposed to be in a different place, but if I stack all these cards up together, they're all going to fall over. So I've just split the 2 different decks up and put them over here next to the item cards so I can find them. We'll now get our stat sheet ready. So this is going to be the status sheet for our adventure that we're going to go on. And once we get done with the first chapter, this is the status sheet we will continue using going into chapter 2, 3, 4, and so on and so forth when we switch to our live play with Colin. And these are going to be checking off different parts of the game as you go through the story cards and the story book. For example, as you go through, it'll say like mark off alternative path 4. So you're going to cross that off on this thing. Or say it'll say, do you have alternate path 4? And we've crossed it off. That means we have discovered it. So something different might appear to us in our journal going forward. Also remember that you may come to parts in the journal asking you for things that you don't have. And if that's the case, you may want to mark that down and take notes on what those different things are that you're lacking. So as you come forward in the game, you may be able to return to places and be able to unlock or experience new things in the journal based on what you've discovered as you've gone through the adventure. And this is important because as you go through it, you're trying to complete different missions inside the chapters, and having to find these things outside of a place and coming back may be the thing you need in order to complete those particular chapters. So in the rulebook, it does state to try to take as many notes as you can to remind yourself of all these different things that are going to be appearing in the journal book that you may not have but be able to get later on in the game. And not only does it count towards these different check marks on the status sheet, but it may also have to do with some of the secret cards as well. It may ask you if you have certain secret cards. So knowing where you need to go with those cards would again be able to experience more parts of the journal and the story. Now playing through the game, there's absolutely no way you are going to experience the entire game in one sitting. So it does have some replay value, not only in the different character selections, but also the decisions you make inside the story journal and the cards as to what unlocks for you moving forward. The next thing you're going to do is gather up all your help cards and pass them out to the players. The first thing we're going to grab is our Order of the Day card. It goes through all the steps you're going to do during the day. There's also a list of actions that you can do. And of course, these are dual-sided, which is why I have two of these out here. They're the same card, just flipped over on the sides. Also, you're going to want to get things ready for your encounters. We have both combat encounters and diplomatic encounters. So you're going to want to have that card available as well to go through it. Then we also have an icon glossary and the enemy trait cards that will help you show you what all the different things you're seeing on the cards do, and those are going to be what you're going to need in order to go forward. There is an extra card that if you're interested in using you can. One is that it gives you a challenge mode, which is going to change the way the game is played and make it more difficult, or you can do what's called the story mode, which makes the game a lot more of a light experience and be able to be more of a game where you're just going to experience the story. We of course will be playing on normal, so I'm not going to need that card at all. So we're going to gather these and have them available to us when we go through the game. We're going to set up all of the different resources that we need. We have two different types of time tokens. We have quest markers and we have our dice. Now some of these are going to be used for rolling. Some of them are going to be used as things we're going to tick down. This one, for example, is mostly used for diplomatic encounters to tick down the number of turns you have with it in order to determine how close you are to the end or not. We have all the different resources we have, such as food and wealth and magic and that sort. We also have this right here. This is going to be used when we use any of our diplomatic encounters, where we're going to be sliding it up and down based on the level of how well we're doing or how well we're not doing in a diplomatic encounter, and you'll see how that works during the playthrough. But do get all your resources ready so you're ready to go. And if you ever need it, this is a combat dial that you can use during combat. We'll see if we're going to need this. This probably is going to be used more when you're fighting some of the bosses or things of that nature, or it might just tell you when you need to use it during the game. And it wouldn't be Awakened Realms if we didn't have these red cubes. These cubes are going to be used for multiple things during the game. There's also purple ones as well. You can use these as resources if you don't have the upgraded pack that I got to the Game Found all-in pledge. So since we have the resources, we are going to use those. Otherwise, you could use these for any of the different resources you need, and also we're going to be using them during the game to mark different things in the game. You're also going to want to get your encounter cards all set up here on this side. Now, like they said, the playmat does have some great places to know where to put everything. So we do put our cards right here. Now, if you notice, this is where they kind of want you to put the secret cards because it has the back of the secret card as to what's supposed to be there. But I just put them over on the other side because since they're all sleeved, like I said, they're all going to fall over the place. These are going to be determined by the setup card for your chapter. So let's quickly look at this. It says, prepare the event deck. Find all parts of chapter 1 and stack them face down from 7 bottom to 1 top. Shuffle the random event cards and now follow the instructions on the back of this card. So let's check out that part first and then we'll come back to these cards. Here's the chapter 1 card, starting at chapter part 1, going all the way to part 7. I've set them here. The random events are right here. We'll give them a quick little truffle shuffle here, so they're all shuffled up and ready to go. I also put the special cards here. I'm not sure if we're going to need them, but I put them there as well. And again, this is kind of where you're supposed to put your chapter cards. I'm not sure what place and where every single one of these is supposed to go, but I have them all, or at least over in this area. Flipping over to the back of the card, it says build your 3 initial encounter decks, blue, green, and purple. If you're using 1 to 3 characters, use all the 1 or level 1 cards. If you're using 4 characters, use all the 1 and 2 cards. Now we're only using 2, so we'll be using all the level 1 cards. Then in each deck, find an encounter with the Your First Encounter on the back of the card. Shuffle the encounter deck and place the Your First Encounter card on top of the corresponding decks. You are now ready to play Chapter 1, Kings of Ruin campaign. Skip Start of Day. As your first action of the game, all characters explore location 101 together as a party. And that is going to be how we start this game. But before we do, I do have all of our encounter cards all shuffled up. If you notice, this one does say the Your First Encounter, so I put that on top, but then we have all the rest of these. We'd give them a good old truffle shuffle. I've already shuffled them, but I'll show you. And on the back, it does show you where the level 1 cards are. There are all these ones with the red marks up on the top that are only a 1. So we're going to give these a little more truffle shuffle here and put that other card back up on top. And like I said, I put this little marker up here to remind myself when I go to do these that we'll be able to use this. Now, the 3 different decks are built like this. These are more natural encounters that are going to get you more food when they're completed, or type of resources. These are more supernatural encounters that I believe are going to reward us more with magic if anything happens. These are your diplomatic encounters that are going to probably give you more some of the wealth and things of that nature going forward. Now, of course, that's not a full standard is how it is. It's just a more often than not, that is the kind of rewards you're going to get for completing these things. In some of the certain instances, it's not, if you pull a card, it's not always best to have to try to deal with the card. You could look at the card, look at the cards you have in your combat deck, let's say for this, and say, you know what, this combat's not for me. You can always run from certain encounters. Of course, some of these may have special rules that don't let you do that, but running is an option in this game. You don't always have to play out the encounter. We have our characters out here on the map for 101, and like the chapter card says, the first thing we are going to do is we are going to explore this location together as a party. Now, before we do that, if you're looking for some other great playthroughs in this, Paul Grogan over at Gaming Rules did a fantastic playthrough, so please go check out his playthrough. I'll put a link to it in the description of this video, so you can check it out if you're interested. With that, let's read the backstory of our 2 characters, and then let's explore tile 1 or card 101, Shunned Lands. Elgin the Candlemaker. 300 years ago, a giant fleet left the homelands seeking refuge from the plague that ravaged the old world. At its helm stood Arthur, the one true king. He led the remnants of humanity to the one place he knew was safe, an island beyond the mists, revealed to him in his dreams. Avalon. But dreams are fickle things. Arthur did not know the island already had its masters. He did not know about the weirdness that shrouded Avalon, the primal power of change capable of warping human minds and bodies. As his fleet approached the island, heavy storms broke it apart. Most ships landed on the eastern coast, together with Arthur, his court, Merlin, and most of the Round Table. A new Camelot was founded there. Wars were lost and won. Many heroes arose. This is not your part of the story. Your ancestors were the unlucky few who crash-landed in the west, on a remote part of Avalon, cut off from the king by clouds of weirdness, high mountain ranges, and the enemy capital, Tuathon. Yet your people survived, clinging to strips of desolate lands and forging their small tribal kingdoms. In the years that followed, 3 great heroes were born from the struggle. One by one, they traveled east, hoping to find the one true king. Their journey transformed them, imbuing them with power not intended for mortals. One by one, they failed to find Arthur. One by one, they returned to your lands, drowning them in chaos, and earned themselves a new name, the Kings of Ruin. The sparse network of waystones, ancient milestones that repulsed weirdness and allowed safe travel, suffered in their wake. Many stones were shattered, others drowned in mist too deep for anyone to find and activate them again. And this brings us to you. You seem to be born under a lucky star, a quiet child of rich Lothian mead makers who could afford to hire you a tutor instead of sending you to work in the fields. You are smart, talented. You quickly learned to read and showed some basic aptitude for magic. Perhaps if you were born in the homelands, you would have become a sorcerer's pupil or a novitiate. Here, the best of your parents could do was a grueling apprenticeship in a candle maker's workshop. Still, you excelled. Shortly before your 20th birthday, you learned all there was about candle making, the strange art of blending animal parts and magic essence to create candles with various effects, including those that could ward off weirdness with the light. You started your own successful workshop, fell in love with a girl, married, and soon she expected a child. Your life was as good as life on Avalon could get. Too good, in fact. 10 years ago, you journeyed to Four Maidens, a densely populated coastal realm where humans first set foot in Avalon. It was supposed to be a week's journey. You planned to sell your supply of candles at a fair, buy some necessities, and head home. You left your workshop under the care of your pregnant wife, hoping to return soon. It's been a decade, and you're not back yet. While you visited Four Maidens, the last waystones on King's Pass, the crucial hub between various human kingdoms, fell. The lands of the pass were covered in weirdness so deep no traveler could navigate it. The last link between Four Mayor area of Western Avalon was severed, and all those who tried to restore it never returned. Year by year, trapped in a foreign land, you hoped that fickle weirdness would retreat just enough for someone to reopen King's Pass. You never walked this trail once, with an ample supply of weird candles, yet you were forced to turn back, slowly falling into desperation. You tried not to think about your wife and the child you've never seen, left alone without your support. This spring, word reached you the weirdness finally slithered back from the King's Pass. They say the damaged waystones at the pass is almost within reach. An opportunity like this won't happen again in many years. You could not wait. You set foot on the Lost Mountain Trail, just like many other travelers, merchants, messengers, and vagabonds. But unlike them, you do not lust for the riches of the lost human kingdoms. You just want to finish your journey and finally return home. The next one is Gerdwin, the Sellsword. Now, if you notice up on top, this is all the same as the other one, so we're going to skip to the part that says this is not your part of the story. And again, we have the extra part here that talks about the people coming back, calling themselves the Kings of Ruin, and this brings us to you. So after moving past all of the stuff that's very similar on all of them, actually I think it's exactly the same, it says right down here, a battle-born daughter of a sellsword regiment, your mother, the kitchen wench, bore you in the midst of a siege. She could not afford to leave her life in a traveling warband, and she had no one else to care for you, yet she was adamant you should not grow into one of the cooks, provisioners, or prostitutes who followed the regiment. Instead, you were taught to shoot and fight from an early age by some of the deadliest fighters in Avalon. It took a lot of sweat and blood for you to gain a place among camp guards, armed defenders who protected the tents and wagons while the army was away. Then you proved yourself in a real battle. When a rival warband tried to pillage your camp, in time you became one of the few women who became a full-paid foot marksman of the Iron Wall Brigade. Over the years and through many campaigns, the brigade became your family until it was betrayed and destroyed when the kingdom of Lothian fell. The survivors scattered across several realms, but Killian Coldfire, the brigade's commander, knew a day like this would come. There was a backup plan. Should the Iron Wall Brigade fall, the survivors were to meet at a certain remote stone in Lothian a year later to regroup and start anew. If that proved impossible, they were to meet a year later or the one after that, or however long it took. And of all survivors, you were the most important one, as fate put the banner of the fallen brigade into your hand. Yet you never made it. While you rested in the coastal area of Four Maidens, waiting for the full year to end, chilling news came that the last waystone on the King's Pass, the crucial hub between various human kingdoms, fell. The lands of the pass were covered in weirdness so deep no traveler could navigate it. The final link between four major areas of Western Avalon was severed, and all those who tried to restore it never returned. You could not make it to the meeting place. You could not return the banner where it belonged. Desperate, you kept hoping that the way to Lothian would open one day, certain your brothers and sisters in arms would still come to the meeting, regardless of how much time has passed. This spring, word reached you that the weirdness finally slithered back from the King's Pass. They say the damaged waystone at the pass is almost within reach. An opportunity like this won't happen again in many years. You could not wait. You set foot on the Lost Mountain Trail, just like many other travelers, merchants, messengers, vagabonds, but unlike them, you do not lust for the riches of the lost human kingdoms. You just want to finish your journey and finally return home. So we have a couple characters that really just want to return home. We can do that. We can try to do that. Now, I do know after reading through the rule book that there are certain characters that pair well together, and sadly, these are not two of them. Because I believe their endings end in different spaces, or they have a different ending for part of their story, where if you paired this person with one of the other one, I think it was Inus, is the character, I probably totally mispronounced that name. The Candlemaker works really well with that character, where the other one works really well with Osbert, but that's okay. We're just going to be doing this first chapter and we'll see how it goes from there. I don't see how it's going to drastically affect how this is played, but do keep in mind they do have a section that tells you kind of what characters pair well together. With that said, we know what our characters want. They want to go home. Let's read the Shunned Lands, because it does say on the chapter card, like I said earlier, we are going to both explore this location. And I know we haven't really started the whole set of turns yet, but do know that when you look at the actions, one of them is Explore. It costs you 0, and you can only explore locations that are clear, and they don't have a guardian. And we'll open the exploration journal to the page with the explored location and read it. So we're going to go to 101. Here's a full picture of the Shunned Lands, again with those broken windmills. It looks super cool, and I wonder what this creepy thing is up in the corner there. Maybe we'll find out. The opening says, if you don't have the hints Part 1 status, go to verse 19. Otherwise, read on. We do not have the hints Part 1 status, so at this point, we would not read anything else that has to do with this. We'll go straight to verse 19. Verse 19 states that if there's only one character, go to verse 20. There's not. We have more than one. So it says, otherwise, read on. I do want to mention that this is a very story-based game, so there's going to be a lot of reading. From what they did in the past with the Tainted Grail Fall of Avalon, there was an app that was able to do all of the narration for, I believe, most of the game, if not all the game. And I'm sure that they're going to be coming out with an app for this one very soon. I apologize, I don't have the date of when that app is going to be available, and it might just be integrated with the actual Tainted Grail app they already have out for the Fall of Avalon. I do know if you're interested in hearing kind of how that is going to transpire, they do have on the GameFound page, I believe one of the updates does have an update of kind of how it's going to sound. I'll tell you right now, it is super immersive when it comes to the Tainted Grail Fall of Avalon, and I'm sure they're going to do equally immersive for the Kings of Ruin. But without the app, you're going to listen to my wonderful voice. So we're going to go on here. It says, none of you are strangers to the trails of Avalon. After all, you've already journeyed this network of wild footpaths, waystones, and poorly kept dirt roads. Yet 10 years spent in the safety and comfort of bustling coastal towns has made you forget. Worse yet, it made you soft. The trail lays this bare in a painful way. Your legs tire quickly, making your progress slower than you have hoped. The cold of the night spent without a campfire, to avoid drawing attention of the brigands who watch the trails like hawks, bites harder than you have imagined. After days of hardship, you finally meet another traveler heading in the same direction, and your heart jumps with hope. But as you approach and hail them, they turn toward you, revealing a teeth-rimmed hole that stretches from their limp jaw to their belly. With thin arms, too long, and with far too many elbows extend in your direction. Then, as you flee in panic, a thunderstorm catches you on the stone highland, soaked to the bone, chased by strange wails that seem to come from everywhere at once. You all take shelter in the only hideout visible under an old crooked dolmen. Its stone roof and two walls protecting you from elements and prying eyes. There you meet one another, travelers bound by the same fear and pains. As you wait for the storm to pass, you discover you are also heading in the same direction, north, toward the mountains of Central Avalon and the King's Pass. Once the sun finally pierces the clouds, journeying together seems the only reasonable idea. After all, it is good to have someone watch while you sleep or make bandits think twice about ambushing you. Then, as long days and even longer evenings by the campfire drag on, you gradually open up and tell one another what set you on this dangerous path in the first place. It feels good to share your loss, hopes, and fears with someone. It feels good not to be alone with your thoughts here on the edge of the weirdness that can hear everything and turn our every fear against you. When you reach the northern edge of the Four Maidens, you know one another well and are determined to head together at least as far as the King's Pass, which now seems almost in your grasp. If there are 4 characters in play, go to verse 21. Otherwise, go to 17, so we'll be moving on to 17. The lively and safe coastal areas of Four Maidens now lie behind you. The path ahead, uphill and desolate, glistens with morning dew and floating wisps of opalescent weirdness. It's been a while since you've seen this capricious, ever-changing fog with your own eyes. The waystone nestled in high grass just off the trail looks almost spent. You walk toward it and inspect it with interest. Every waystone has its keeper in civilized lands, a feudal lord, a local town, or a brotherhood sworn to protect it. But here, so close to the pure weirdness that still covers most of Avalon, these landmarks are often snuffed out by the powers that dwell in the fog. There are also mentions of those who drain their power on purpose, though you can't comprehend how vile one would have to become to stoop this low. It's been a while since you've reactivated any stones, and it does require some effort and proper offerings. But you know you will never reach the King's Pass without their guiding light. As your hand carefully touches the surface, the stone comes back to life. Strands of weirdness in the air immediately slithering away like snakes from a flaming torch. You're lucky. This stone was not yet fully exhausted, and waking it up was easy. The others that lie ahead will require more effort. For this tutorial, though, it says tutorial, it says if this location you are in has at least one revealed waystone marker in any of its corners, it means you may perform and activate a waystone action while in this location. The waystone in your location just became active. Place a waystone model so it covers up the marked top right corner of location 101. The most important function of waystones is to push back the mists of the weirdness from neighboring locations, allowing you to explore them and safely travel through them. Each location card in the Tainted Grail Kings of Ruin has 2 sides, a clear side with a brown frame and with this particular icon up in top. For example, card 101 is facing its clear side up, a weirdness covered side with the white frame and the weirdness icon, which is located by this. For example, card 102 is facing side up. Whenever you activate a waystone, flip any weird locations that touch the placed model to their cleared side. Right now, location 102 to the north is still showing the weird side. Flip the location to the cleared side named Crooked Sentinel. Please note that location 102 has 2 waystone markers in the bottom right corner and the upper right corner. The one in the upper right corner remains unoccupied. This means that once you enter this location, after resolving any resolve immediately after entering the location rules, which is what this lightning bolt means, you will be able to perform the activate a waystone action here. It will place a new waystone model in the upper right corner of the card. At this point, I'm going to gain Hints Part 1 status, draw and resolve an event card, and then the exploration ends. So at this point, we're moving over to our status sheet. We're going to find hints, and we're going to cross off hints 1, which means we have already done this. Now, of course, this is going to affect anything going forward when it comes to asking if we have this. Now at this point, we are going to draw our first chapter part 1 card as explained in the storybook. So we'll see what it says. Place this card in your active events area. Now that the waystone is active, you steel yourself for the journey ahead, knowing that reaching the King's Pass won't be easy. You're about to take your first step on a road to the pass when a strange feeling creeps up your back. Is something watching us? Is something watching you from the mist? Your initial exploration now ends. You're free to do whatever you wish to pursue your quest. So our quest here is to reach the King's Pass, where roads leading to many forlorn lands cross. Remember, you may explore location 101 again to find more exciting places and stories. The exploration action is a free action. So we'll place this down into our active chapter area, which I'm going to put right there. So at this point, we're returning to our action phase. We don't have any more of the journal to read for now, but we could go back to this location and read more to find out some more about this land, or potentially getting more resources or uncovering things about our past or things of that nature. The other thing I want to mention is here, I do have an action I can do on this card. For 2 energy, I can harvest wild crops, which means I can gain 1 food. Now, after I perform that action, I would have to put time markers equal to the number here. There's 1. So that means I can't do it I'd have to wait a day to be able to do this again. Because at the beginning during the beginning of the day area, during the order step here, it does say to remove a time from each card. So at that point, I'd remove this time. I would go to my during the day action phases and things of that nature, and I could do it again. So you can't just keep on repeating the same action if there's a time symbol here. Now, if there isn't a time symbol, I could just keep on harvesting like crazy. But for now, I could choose to, for example, well, first off, what I have to do is I have to put on my waystone marker. This is my waystone marker. I'm going to place this right here. And as you can see, it now touches this card and this card, just like our book said. And once it touches that, it's able to remove the weirdness from our location 2 and show us the Crooked Sentinel. And down here, look, it has like, maybe that's another stone, or this even could be one of the menhirs from the old Tainted Grail game. And down here, it does show there's a little cart up here. There might be something we could investigate. And there's also a when this is entered, it says if you don't have the Hints Part 2 status, explore this location. So that's something you have to do. And it says the crooked statue of a hooded fore-dweller juts from the rolling hills. So we'll put that up there, and we could explore that place as well, but we'd have to move to it, which is one of our actions we could do, which is going to be travel. Perform the following in order: move to a location connected to the current one, resolve any upon entering effects, and place any new locations. If it has a waystone, place them revealed side up. Otherwise, place them weird side up. So that is one of the actions, but I think I'm going to go back to here and see if anything changed now that we have that new status, the Hints Part 1. And you can either choose to go as just one person. I could have this person go alone, or we could go as a party and help each other out during the adventure that we have inside the location. We're going to go together as a party to this location. Returning to the book, it does say if you don't have Hints Part 1 status, go to verse 19, otherwise read on. So since we now do have that hints, we get to explore this land differently than when we didn't. Once fertile farmland, now a dreary waste, punctuated by wooden carcasses of abandoned windmills. As you watch their frayed blades slice the gray sky to pieces, movement flutters in the corner of your eye. You feel something watching you from between the structures. But that can't be right. Only shadows dwell here, reminding sore-footed travelers of the region's opulent past. When you're at a location, there are times when you're going to have to make a choice. And these are the ones we have for this particular location. I can use 1 energy to go to the windmill, and that'll take us to verse 3. The other one is I could use 1 energy and follow the mysterious traveler. Now, of course, that does mean we have to have at least 1 courage. Now, for this particular event, having 1 courage, that means only one of the party members needs to have that courage. If Elgin did not have any courage, but Gerdwin had 1, then we could still go here. But if Elgin came by himself and he had no courage, he wouldn't be able to do this particular action here. Now, both of our characters do have 1 courage on their character card, or character board, I should say, so we could go to verse 1. The other options we have is to turn back and return to 4 maidens, which would go to verse 6. The other one is we could just leave and the exploration ends, which wouldn't cost us any energy, any time, or anything, because it didn't cost anything to explore the location to begin with. Also, when choosing actions or having to deal with different roadblocks that you're going to have based on resources or energy or things of that nature, there are different ways to explain it. This one, for example, 1 energy, go to the windmills. That does not mean that both of our characters have to spend this energy, unless it would say all characters or all party members spend 1 energy to go to the windmills. Since it only says 1 energy, we can choose to divide that amongst our characters. And since it's only 1 energy, I'm going to have Elgin use the 1 energy, bringing him down to 5. And at that point, we're going to follow the mysterious shadows. Let's see where these go. 1 states, if you have the Curios Part 1 status, there's nothing more to find here. Exploration ends. Otherwise, read on. We do not carry that particular status, so we're going to carry on here and read on. It says, catching shadows as a fool's errand. As soon as you move in its direction, the shape struts away and disappears into a surrounding weirdness. To ensure it wasn't just hallucination, you approach the spot where it disappeared. The footprints on the ground are very real and not human. The shape and irregular gait betray that whoever left them was severely disfigured. A glint of gold in the mud catches your attention as you inspect the footprints. It is a golden coin from Homelands, bearing the countenance of King Arthur's Pendragon. A hole drilled through it with a leather strap revealed the creature was wearing it as a charm. You know of only 1 group that wears the mementos of 1 true king as their amulets. But what would they do so close to civilized realms? You fail to find more clues, but once you locate another, smaller and more regular set of tracks leading from one of the neglected farm fields to one of the dilapidated windmills, is someone still living there, sustaining themselves on wild crops? Gain 1 wealth and Curios Part 1 status. Exploration ends. And whenever you see exploration ends, that does mean you kind of close the journal and you move back to the board. Elgin has no wealth, so we're going to give him 1 wealth. Gerdwin already has 1 wealth. Now, of course, that did say you only gain 1 wealth. It didn't say all characters or all party members gaining wealth, so it's just 1 for our characters. So we'll mark that on our record sheet here that we have the first part of this particular thing we have to deal with. And of course, that you don't need all of them for different things to happen. It could just say, hey, do you have number 6? Or hey, do you have 5 of these checked off when it comes to certain locations? You never know exactly which ones of these you're going to need, but we do have the first one. Now, we do know, looking at that, we read the book, there is still one more thing we could do, and that is we could visit the windmills. So let's again go into this card as a party and visit those windmills. Now, of course, this is costing us energy, and it might not always be beneficial to search an entire location from top to bottom. And of course, as you've seen by the need for different tags and different cards, that you're not going to be able to. But I think let's give it a shot. Let's give it a shot and see what else is going to be there if we go to the windmills. So that is going to cost us 1 energy, and this time I'm going to have Gerdwin do it. Let's go to verse 3. Looking at verse 3 here, it does look for a bunch of different statuses. It's asking if we have the Sharp Truth, the Song of Avalon, or if we have a Negotiator Part 1. I don't have any of those. And is there a time marker on this location? No, we do not have a time marker on the location as well. So we're not going to visit any of those verses. We're going to go to verse 5. Footprints of a small child weave between fields and ruins, eventually leading you to an inhabited windmill. Go to verse 9. The family dwelling in the windmill somehow managed to avoid the worst effects of exposure to weirdness. Still, they are malnourished, half wild, and suspicious. They treat you as if you were just another hallucination, or worse, a weird spawn. So at this point I can choose one. I can either attempt to gain their trust. This will test your diplomatic skills. Go to verse 18, or I can just leave. Well, we're already here. We already paid the energy. Let's give it a shot. I'm going to attempt to gain their trust. Let's see how diplomatic I can be. At this point, we'll find secret card 199, Windmill Denizens Blue Encounter. We're going to resolve the encounter according to the standard diplomacy rules. Then, as a tutorial, it's just teaching you that after resolving an encounter drawn from the secrets deck, I should return it there and not to the encounter deck, unless the game specifically asks you to add it to the encounter deck. And so at this point, if the conclusion is green or gray, I'm going to gain the Negotiator Part 1 status and go to verse 10. Otherwise, my exploration is going to end. We're going to do a diplomatic encounter, and I'll show you exactly how this is all going to transpire. Here's our encounter with the Windmill Denizens. We do have a little marker that's going to move up and down. I will say, and according to my copy, this thing slides off super easy. It doesn't really stick to the card, which is kind of nice because you're not going to ruin your card. But even with it sleeved, it doesn't really hang on to it very well, but that's okay. We're still going to use it just like that. You could also track it with a cube. If you wanted to, you could just move that cube up and down. It's up to you, but we're going to use this thing. We're going to set up our encounter by putting the number here on this die. This is slowly going to tick down, and our goal, as you read from the book, is to either be in the green or the gray in order to gain our Negotiator 1, if that's what we're hoping for. Also, we're going to be able to gain some benefits, or we're going to gain some detriments based on whether or not we're able to get in the green or gold. There is first we're going to go check out the special rules here. It says you must prove to them that you are not another weird spawn or hallucination. And we're going to start our diplomatic encounter by looking at this card. This is the steps that we're going to take. And when you play through this game, I strongly recommend keeping this card next to you when you start your diplomatic and your combat encounters so you don't miss any steps. So at the start of the diplomacy, every party member is going to draw 3 cards from the diplomacy deck. You may redraw. Now, whenever you do redraw, it's just like any other type of game that has to do with mulligans. Well, most of them, I should say. You have to lose, you're drawing back up 1 less card. So you start by drawing 3 cards. If you don't like them, you can redraw, but you're going to discard those cards, and you're only going to gain 2 cards then. And if you want to redraw again, you're only going to gain 1 card. So it's almost beneficial just to keep the 3 you have, but who knows, they might be absolutely worthless to you, and you might not want to. So each of our characters are going to shuffle up their deck. Now, normally you would shuffle this deck up at the end of any of your diplomatic or combat encounters. Once it's done, you would shuffle your deck. But I didn't shuffle it when we started our characters and put them out on the table. So I'm just going to give these decks a truffle shuffle. This is going to be Gerdwin's. She's going to take 1, 2, 3. We'll also get Elgin's deck. Elgin is going to do a little truffle shuffle here as well. Get his deck all nicely shuffled up here so none of them are together. None of 1, 2, 3 or something. But maybe 1, 2, and 3 is perfect. Who knows? We're going to then give him a little cut here, put a little more shuffles, and grab 1, 2, 3, and we'll place his cards right there. We're going to reveal these cards, and then we're going to start it. But let's also check the rest of the beginning steps here. Next, we're going to set the die to the number indicated by the encounter duration, which is right up there. The next thing is place the universal marker on the starting slot of the affinity track. And like I did, I just put that right there. At this point, we're going to check the enemy traits. Again, we did that. There are no traits. It just gives us a little bit of flavor text. So now let's take a look at our cards. Place them down here so you can see everything going on in all action here and see what we get. Here are the cards that we have drawn. We have Gerdwin's Flash of Insight, Keen Sight, and Intimidation. We have Elgin's Spark, Mind-Numbing Candle, and a Bribery. These are the cards that we're going to use to try to defeat this encounter. Now, at the end of each turn, of course, we'll be able to draw another card, and these cards might allow us to draw new cards that are going to be able to help us out. So let's take a look at the card that we're dealing with, and then we get to choose which character gets to go first. And then the monster will react after a character goes. So if we decide to do Elgin, after that, then the character is going to go with whatever this ability is here, unless, of course, we've changed that ability based on our cards. So if we look at the top, our goal is to try to match these symbols and match things on our card to those particular symbols to allow us to affect this marker over here. Also, this is a universal mark down here that we can take advantage of. So we want to find any cards that might be able to link up with this particular symbol right here, because that's the only one that we have. And the reason I need it, there's the only one we have, is because if we look at our character abilities, nobody has 2 of the empathy, 2 of the caution, or 2 of the spirituality except for Elgin. Elgin has 2 spirituality, so he could take advantage of this particular mark on the card. So let's see if there's anything that has that. Before we decide what card to play, I thought I'd quickly go over some of the symbols you're seeing on these cards. The first one, we'll start over here. The first one you see is this symbol right here. That is going to show that if that links up, it will activate that ability found on the diplomacy card. So if we had these, it would increase our track here based on those particular skills. Also, we have this symbol down here. That symbol is allowing us to play another card after your first turn. Whenever you play a card in this game, you can only play one card. But then if you can link these symbols up, then you can continue to play other cards in a chain if you want to. This is a really cool system. I really like this system. Not only is it this, it is exactly the same as the Tainted Grail, but I just love the way this card play works. You try to find these great interactions with these cards. Not only do you have to find interaction with cards, you have to find the interaction with the abilities of the cards. There's lots of things going on. Super, super cool. This symbol here allows us to draw a card if it links up with something that allows us to do that. And then each card, if you notice, does have those special abilities. So this one is when it's, this symbol right here means when it's played. So whenever one of these is played, you're going to do what it says on this particular card. This one, though, does allow us to put 2 time on here. And then we're going to remove time. And when all the time is removed from this card, we're going to place 2 charges on the card. And then at that point, we can pay charges to ignore the enemy response. So this is a card that's going to remain, you want to keep out there for a long period of time to allow it to activate all its cool stuff it can do. And this is a passive card. As you can see, it's got the symbols on 2 sides as opposed to linked up on the sides. So this one is going to actually be, another cards are going to be played next to it over on that side, as opposed to this type of card where it's going to be played on top of it. And once it's played on top, it loses whatever abilities that it has down here on the bottom of it. Now that we talked a little bit about the cards, let's go into our first turn. So we've done the starting part of our diplomatic encounters. We're now going to pick the active character. And since we've talked about Elgin's cards, we're going to choose him as the active character for the first turn. So at this point, the character activation, we're going to go with our delayed abilities. We're going to remove any time tokens we have from each card and resolve any if all the time tokens are removed from the card parts of the card. We don't, of course, have any of those yet. We're then going to play cards. We can play 1 or more diplomatic cards from your hand. Additional cards, though, are going to require this particular bonus in order to do it. At any time, you may avoid the entire diplomatic encounter by moving the time track down 4 and losing all of the remaining duration that this is going to take place. To show that we're going to use Elgin, we're going to put a time token on his card. That way you don't forget who's gone and who hasn't gone when it comes to each of these encounters. Because remember, everybody does have to activate. We do get to choose the order. And this order is not set in stone. So for this turn, Elgin could go first, followed by Gerdwin. Gerdwin then could actually go at the beginning of the next turn, and Elgin could go second. So you can choose at the beginning, whoever doesn't have a time token is allowed to activate. Our first card we're going to play is going to be our mind-numbing candle, and we're going to line this up to see if any of these are going to be able to be affected for our character. We aren't going to be able to use any of these because the only one I have 2 of is going to be in spirituality, and nothing is linking with that at the moment. Do notice this right here. This doesn't actually pertain to anything, but it is considered a candle icon, and if there's other cards that affect the candle, then this is going to affect any cards that have that symbol on it. Since we're not going to worry about that at this moment, we're going to continue on. None of these are going to connect, but this one does. The free connection down here, we do get to draw 1 card, which is what that symbolizes there. So we'll take the top card of our diplomacy deck, and we have gotten a spark card. And so we'll put this into our hand. And now that we've gone through all the different links here, we're going to do what's on the card. This states when this card is placed, I am going to put 2 time tokens onto this card. When all the time tokens are removed, we're going to place 2 charges onto the card. And then I can pay 2 charges at any to ignore the enemy response that is found right here on the diplomatic mission, or the diplomatic card here, which would be really helpful. But of course, it's going to take us a little bit of time to get to that ability. Now, this is a passive card, as I stated earlier. So the next links are going to be over here. They're not going to be covering up this card. They're going to be put over on this side. And actually, I think this this is the next card I might want to play. Let me look at the rest of the cards we have. We have ourselves this Haggling, a Bribery, and we have Spark. And I think Spark might be the next one we play. And we're allowed to play this because we have this particular symbol down here that matches up with at least a ×1, which means that I'm allowed to play another card in the sequence. And this card is going to, first we're going to do all the links here. The first link we have is for Spirituality, which we do have one of, which allows us to activate this ability on our card over here. And if we look at it, this symbol right here allows us to move this track up 1 if it's used on a Spirituality or it's used on an Empathy. And since it was used for Spirituality, we get to move this up 1 space. And with that, we're going to move over to what this card does. And what this card does is, well, amazing. It states here, when it's played, you may place 2 time markers on or remove a time token from a candle card. And we do have one right here. If I remove the last time token, I would resolve this effect down here. Now, sadly, I can't remove the last one, but I am able to remove at least 1. With that card resolved, I do have 2 other cards I could play. One would be this one. I could play this one here, but it would cost me 1 magic. These blue ones here are our magic symbols. I have to pay the magic, so these are always optional, the blue ones. I could pay the magic to allow myself to play this other card. Now, sadly, if I do that, this card isn't going to do me anything except for what is down here. Ignore the enemy response, and then after the enemy activates, I have to remove the last card in the chain here, which would be this one. Or the other one I could play would be Bribery. And that allows me, again, because this is linked up, I can play the card. The only thing, again, on this that links it together is I'm allowed to spend my magic to draw a card. Of course, when it's played, I could, if I want to, choose to remove 1 wealth to move the track up 1. But I don't think I'm going to play either of those. I'm going to stop at this moment right here and call Elgin's turn done. With his turn completed, I'm going to drop this down 1 because that's what this says, and then I'm going to lose 1 of the durations, so we are down to 2 on this card. Gerdwin is now going to activate, so we'll place that token on her card. At the beginning of the turn, we are going to delayed abilities, remove 1 time token from each combat card and resolve this particular thing. So we are going to remove the 1 from here. And at this point, it's gone. So we're going to place the 2 charges onto this card. Now I can pay these 2 charges to ignore the enemy response. And anybody could do this. So that means Gerdwin could do this if she wanted to. Of course, sometimes when you use other people's cards, you have to ask if it's okay to do it. But since I'm playing solo, it's going to be totally just fine. So at this point, I am going to play this card right here, which is going to cover up this one. This card isn't going to give me help over here. There's nothing that's helping me over there. But over here, it says if the affinity is red, place 1 charge on this card. At this point, it says I may pay 1 charge, and the next card played doesn't need to have that symbol, which is the symbol to allow me to play the next card. It is right here. This card can be played after your first card in a turn. Since this is going to be my second card, I need to have to be able to spend this charge to do it, and I'm going to do that. I'm going to spend that charge to allow myself to play Intimidation. Intimidation doesn't have, again, anything linking itself up here. But notice the free one down here is ×2. So I get to move this up 1, 2. I'm actually made it to the gray, which is super good. On though right over here now it says, once this card is played, I have to remove the last 2 cards in this chain. So we're going to remove both of those cards from this and put them into a discard pile. They're removed from this diplomatic mission. I also want to mention that if you run out of cards, that's it. You don't reshuffle your deck or anything during one of these things. You just have to either have it resolve on its own, or you're going to have to just run from or fail the encounter, I guess you could say. That is the end of her turn. There is only 1 card I could play. I could play this one if I want to, which would allow me to draw a card if I want to play a magic. And if this card is removed, I'm going to lose 1 duration. I don't think I'm going to play that card quite yet, but I am going to pay the 2 charges to allow this not to activate. So with that not activating, we're going to go back to our characters. We're going to remove both of the time tokens from their character card to show that both of the characters are now active and able to be used. On top of that, the other things we have to do during the end turn here is to discard down to 3 cards. Of course, both of our characters either have 1 or 2 in their hands, so they don't have to do that. We do all get to draw 1 card. We do skip this if you're panicked. If you're panicked, that means your terror level has gotten too high, and instead of being able to draw cards, when it's your turn, you're just going to randomly play the top card off your deck onto this stack. Gerdwin is going to be drawing the card Stubbornness. Elgin got the card, which one is it? Flash of Insight. This turn we are going to start with Gerdwin. I'm going to place a time token there. And she is going to play Stubbornness, which is going to allow us to move the track up 1 just because that one thing links. That is it. And that's going to be the end of her turn, which means we're going to tick this down to 1 and we're going to lose 1. But at least we didn't gain or lose anything, which is fantastic. Gaining something would be better, but it didn't. Next, we're going to go with Elgin. He's going to grab a time token, place it down on his character card, or character board, and at this point, he's going to play Haggling. What this is going to do is ignore the enemy's response, and after the enemy does its action, I'm going to remove the card from the farthest on the chain here. This one does link with my empathy, so I do get to move this up 1, and I get to ignore, now that's all I'm going to play, so I'm going to ignore this again and discard this card from the chain. With our enemy response completed, we are going to check the readiness. If each party member activated, go to phase 5. We have done that, so we're going to discard down to 3. That's not going to happen. Elgin has 2, and again, Gerdwin only has 1. We're then going to draw a card, clear our activation tokens, and start a new turn, going to phase 1, which will then pick our active character. So after removing our 2 time tokens from our character boards, the 2 cards that we have drawn, our Elgin has done Simple Truths, and Gerdwin has Bribery. And lucky for us, I think this might be the end. I am going to have Elgin go first. Elgin is going to put a time token down and place this card. He links up again with his empathy up here to be able to move this up 1 space. Also, because of this link down here, I'm able to move this up 1 space. Look at this. It does say if this card is removed, I am going to gain a fear. Well, that's not going to happen. I'm going to be done. And so what's going to happen is we're going to activate this in the order it shows. The first thing we're going to do is move this down. Then we are going to lose 1 duration, bringing this duration down to 0 if there is a 0 on this thing. There's not a 0, you just remove it. There's actually a 10 on this die. And that is the actual max you can have. If you're ever at 10 duration, it tells you to go any higher. You can't go any higher. That's it. We've gotten the end of here. So once we come to the end of the thing, we are going to do our conclusion check. At any moment, if the last duration point is lost, the encounter immediately ends and the conclusion is resolved. Apply the conclusion effect. See the encounter card depending on the affinity marker's position. Our affinity marker's position is in the green, so not only do we, so that's the good outcome, so we are going to gain ourselves 1 food. So we'll take the food token that we have and give it to 1 person. Now again, it's not per character, it doesn't say per character or per party, it's just we gain 1 food and we have to choose who to give it to. I'm going to give it to Gerdwin. Gerdwin is now at 3 food, and we're going to take all of her cards, mix them up with the diplomacy cards we did not use, give them a triple shuffle, and they're going to be all set for the next time we go into a diplomatic encounter. We got that deck all set to go. And also, we're also going to get Elgin's deck ready at the same time. We're going to flip this over, put the cards together, and give this, again, like I said, a good truffle shuffle, hopefully not putting cards all over the place. There we go. We got that all mixed up and ready to go. And again, things flying everywhere. Okay. There we go. We're good. We're good. We're totally good. Everything's ready to go. I do want to mention that normally when you conclude a encounter, this would go at the bottom of the deck. But since this is a secret card, it's going to go back into the secret deck, unless, of course, something here would have told me something else to do with it, like to place it into the encounter deck that it comes from. But it didn't do that. It told us that we're just going to place this right back in the secret cards. And since I did get the green response, I'm allowed to put down Negotiator 1. So we're going to fill in that box on our status sheet, and we're going to go to the next verse. The family invites you to their hideout on the 2nd floor of the windmill. The path leads up a retractable ladder and past thick oaken doors, marred with claw marks. In a cramped room above, you learn that all settlers from this area fled soon after the weirdness came. However, these people firmly believe that the king in the east will return and save their land. And so they wait, harvesting wild crops whenever someone lights a nearby waystone. So if we're playing Elgin, you don't have the Curios Part 10 status, go to verse 12. Otherwise, go to 11. So we do actually abide by this. We do have Elgin, and we don't have that. So let's check out verse 12. While they talk, you suddenly spot a detail that tugs at your heart, even more than the feral, hungry faces of the children and their meager possessions. In the middle of their table, there lies a sad stump of a weird candle. So pale you barely feel any power in it. It's obvious that the family tried to make it last as long as possible. The mother notices you looking at the candle and says, "'Twas a gift, oh, my mother. I only light it for a short while now and then when the kids are all scared, when the weird is close, touching our shoulders, brushing against our hair." You don't know how to tell her that the candle is clearly spent. They probably remade it at least a couple times, melting the wax and shaping it back into a candle with a new wick. The thing they trust to protect them from weirdness does not work. How do they stay sane and unaltered? Were they just lucky? Some say the weirdness can be shaped with the mind. Could it be that their staunch belief in this sad remnant of a candle was all it took? While you wrestle with your thoughts, the woman keeps talking. You learn the candle is the least of her worries. Every couple of months, a strange group of men in robes comes up the old footpath of the King's Pass that leads west from the Crooked Sentinel. They were here just a fortnight ago, and ever since this visit, the woman's second daughter, 14-year-old fair-haired Alyssa, blessed with the voice of an angel, has not been seen. We now have a couple new leads. It says a young girl from the windmills was supposedly taken by a strange-looking band of travelers the old path west of the Crooked Sentinel. We also have another lead that says if you wish to help this family survive, a new weird candle is the most important. So at this point, we can choose one of these. We can spend 2 energy to make her a new candle. We'll pay 1 food and go to verse 16. We could tell the woman her candle's not working and go to verse 15. That's probably going to end in sadness. And give the woman a new candle, but that requires the weird candle consumable item, which we do not have, so I can't do that. But notice both of these are going to go to the same thing, so I don't see why we just don't make a candle for her. I'm going to spend 2 energy. I'm going to use 1 for me, and I'm going to use both of them from Elgin. Elgin's going to use both of them, bringing his energy down to 3, and we're going to make her a new candle. I'm also going to have to pay 1 food, so we're going to use Gerdwin's food, though. We're going to get rid of that. And we're going to go to verse 16 and see what happens. At first, they don't believe someone could make a gift of this value. Then the woman begins to sob. "I prayed to the gods to send us another candle to keep us safe, sir. I even sent my eldest son to trade my silver necklace for one, but they're so expensive now he returned empty-handed." A faint memory returns to you, a stuttering fellow in rags who once tried to buy your candle for some tarnished silver trinket. You remember you chased him away from your workshop, but you do not find it in yourself to tell that to the woman. An old candle is now replaced with a new one. The family is safe, at least for now. And as a reward, the woman hands you their old useless candle with reverence. So at this point, we're going to gain Secret Card 4 and the Curios Part 10 status. Each party member is going to lose 1 fear. That's not going to happen. And our exploration is going to end. So we are going to get our first Secret Card. It is Secret Card number 4. And if I could actually flip this over, it says we have found a remelted candle. A weird candle melted and reshaped so many times it barely holds any power. So we're going to add this to our collection of cards. I'll also mark down that we now have Curios number 10 here. So all you do is find 2 through 9. We found number 10 though, that's pretty awesome. So we'll mark that there. At this point, I think we've exhausted our stay here in these shunned lands. So as a party, we're just going to move up to the Crooked Sentinel. And that action is going to cost us 1 energy that I'm going to have Gerdwin use. Now, before we look at this card, moving is a scaled action, so it is one that is going to cost every member of the party to pay 1 energy to move. So Elgin did have to pay 1 as well, so he is down to 2 energy, where Gerdwin has 4. Also, if you move into a place with a, once you move into effect like there is on this card, if you move as a party, the entire party has to deal with that particular event. So let's check out what that is. It says on the card, if you don't have the Hints Part 2 status, explore this location. Right down here it says the crooked statue of a hooded four-dweller juts from the rolling hills, which is pretty sweet. It's right there. I think that's pretty awesome. Here's a picture of the Crooked Sentinel. I think it's pretty awesome. We are going to investigate this location because we do not have the Hints Part 2 status. One thing I really do enjoy about this is the artwork is really awesome. If you don't have the Hints Part 2 status, go to verse 10. Otherwise, read on. At this point, we'll be moving to verse 10. With the dreary, shunned lands behind you, you now draw close to King's Pass. You've already walked this road once, in the opposite direction, though the time makes memories into a blur. You know there should be a narrow winding trail leading up to the pass not far in the east. To the west, the land drowns in pure weirdness. You'd rather not take that path. Each step through the ever-shifting mist is a real danger, and spending a night in its coils can cost you your life or sanity. Still, they say that adventurers brave enough to walk beyond the lights of the Waystone sometimes find things that wouldn't be possible otherwise, for better or worse. We do have some new things to learn here. It says when you enter a new location, you first resolve any immediately after entering the location symbols, which is this lightning bolt. You do those instructions first, and then as you complete them, check all direction keys of your location and attach any cards that match these keys to its sides. However, note that each location card has two sides, a clear side with a brown frame and that clear icon on it, where the other one is a weirdness covered side with a white frame, and it also has the weirdness symbol. Any locations that have a Waystone model in one of their corners are always placed on the clear side up. Locations that don't have Waystone models in any of their corners are always placed with the weird side up. We'll now attach the new locations. And once that's done, we are going to gain Hints Part 2 status. So if we look at the cards here, it does have a way of going to 104. So we'll place that one out here, but it's going to be weird side up because there's not a active thing here. The other Waystone, I should say. The other one is 103. We're going to place that right over here, but we are going to flip it because this one is touching our Waystone right there. So it looks like that's going to go to the Stone Chorus, and this one's going to go to, well, Weirdness, which is awesome. With that completed, we can now decide if we want to again look into this particular place, or we could continue moving over to the Stone Chorus. I think I want to explore this settlement yet again. So we're going to check out the Crooked Sentinel. A crooked statue of a hooded four-dweller presides over the rolling hills, a repulsive memento that this land once belonged to other, much older beings. They say the former rulers of Avalon left these statues, commonly called menhirs, all over the island. To what end? You cannot fathom. The statue's long cloak splits near its base, providing enough space for a grown human to squeeze inside. A broken rune wagon rests on the side of an old trail that weaves past the sentinel, the wagon's guards looking at you suspiciously. Here are our choices. We can either demolish the statue, which does require at least 2 aggression. And we don't have that, so we can't even think about doing that. The second one is we could spend energy to enter the statue if you want to. We could also spend 1 energy to study the magic aura of the statue, which costs us 2 spirituality, which we do have, but we don't have the Faint Notion Part 1 status, so that one we can't do. We could search the mountains beyond the statue, or we could approach the broken rune wagon. I'm going for the rune wagon because remember, it did say that we might be wanting to look for somebody that took one of the girls from the shunned lands. So let's go to verse 7. First, it states that if you're playing chapter 5 or further, go to verse 14. Not doing that. If you have the friend of nobility, part 1 status, go to verse 12. Otherwise, we'll read on. Rich nobles of Avalon often travel with wagons like this. Ironclad mammoths of thick oak, walls adorned with runes meant to ward against weirdness. Yet, all this arcane protection did nothing to save the wagon from a broken axle. 2 men-at-arms and a coachman now try to repair it, but the wagon's sheer size and weight make it almost impossible. Again, we can make some choices. We can help them repair the axle, forcefully barge into the wagon, and we can do both those because we do have the skills required to do these. We can ask them where they're going and what's inside. We can also ask them why they fly the banners of the Dead Kingdom, which requires Gerdwin, and we do have Gerdwin in our party, so I almost want to always try to do those because it's kind of cool. We might learn a little bit more about Gerdwin. So let's do this. Let's check out the why they fly the banners of the Dead Kings and go to verse 8. One thing about the rune cart immediately catches your attention. A tattered flag depicting two golden boars on a green background. Even after all these years, you'd recognize this coat of arms anywhere. You fought your first battle in its shadows. You bled and nearly died for it. Now excitement mixed with anxiety washes over you as you see it again. The banner of the lost kingdom of Lothan. A land of Claudine the Unknighted. You ask the men-at-arms about the meaning of the banner. One is excited enough to tell you the Lothian shall rise again soon. The other immediately silences him. Could it be that the Lothian noble waits inside the wagon? The old fat King Loth, who spent so many years straining the hospitality of the four maiden nobles? His snake of a wife? Or maybe you shudder. The Dolorous twins themselves? If you don't have the rumors and hearsay part 1 status, Gerdwin loses 1 fear and gains 1 energy. So Gerdwin goes to 5 energy and gains the rumor and hearsay part 1 status, and our exploration ends. Now I don't have any fear to lose though. Here's our rumors and hearsay, so I'll mark that down right here. We have rumors and hearsay number 1, which is pretty awesome. I have a feeling that the rumors and hearsay probably are going to have to do with Gerdwin the whole way, but I could be completely wrong. Now from where we are, we do have another place to put another waystone, but in order to do that, we have to have at least 1 magic per person and 1 wealth or 1 food per character. We have the food and wealth, but we only have 1 magic point right now. The other way is we could play the blood price, which is 3 health and gain 2 horror, or I shouldn't say horror, but terror per character. I don't like that at all. So at this point, we need to find some way to get magic. And there might be magic inside this, because these in the old game were the way that you would keep the weirdness back. So maybe there's some magic hidden in there. So let's go and search this place again as a party. And this time, let's check this thing out. So we're going to enter the statue, which is going to cost us 1 energy. And I'm going to use that from Gerdwin, bringing her energy down to 4. You squeeze into a narrow opening at the foot of the statue and a vile stench immediately overwhelms you. Some previous travelers decided to use this hidden place as a toilet. Oh, that's awesome. And adorned the walls with profanities. Oh, sweetness. Okay. Super good. And it says, if you have at least 1 caution, go to verse 3, otherwise your exploration ends. Gerdwin does have 1 caution, so we are going to be able to go as a party to verse 3. Among the seen messages, you find a hidden note written in charcoal. Kadir, I did as instructed, pushed everything into weirdness to the west, 100 paces forward and 20 to the left of the old milepost. Don't let this stuff sit there for too long, or something strange is bound to happen. So I'm going to gain secret message part 1, which is a new lead. Someone hid something in the weirdness covered lands to the west. My exploration ends. We'll mark down secret message 1. There's only 3 secret messages, so getting one of them is probably, we're 1/3 of the way done. Well, if that isn't a reason to go west, I don't know what is. At this point, though, Elgin only has 2 energy left. Gerdwin has 4. So I'm actually going to have her go by herself over here, which might not be the greatest plan on the planet, but we'll see what happens. So whenever I enter this place, I am going to, each party member is going to gain 1 terror. Gerdwin has none right now, so we're going to go up 1. And then we're going to check out the Book of Secrets, which is different from the actual exploration journal. It's a separate part in the back of the book. It's completely different from these locations. It says right here, you see only naked tree trunks emerging from the weirdness. Or are those the masts of ships sailing in the opalescent sea? Number 70 does have another tutorial. Remember, after resolving the upon entry effect of you should always check the direction keys of the location card to see whether a new locations are revealed. After you finish this exploration, be sure to reveal a new location. It says here, if you have the secret message part 1 status or at least 1 in spirituality, go to verse 85. Now, I don't have anything in spirituality, but I do have the secret message part 1. Hoofda! If I needed both of those, that would have been absolutely terrible, and it would have felt horrible because I should have brought Elgin along. But we didn't need to worry about that, at least for now. So we're going to go to verse 85. If you have the Sticky Fingers part 2 status, go to verse 84. Otherwise, read on. It says here we gain 2 food, 1 wealth, 1 magic, and 1 item card A. Holy haul, Batman, that's amazing. We got so much stuff. And then it says here, gain Sticky Fingers part 2 status. So gaining all this stuff might come back to bite us later in the game. But for right now, I'm a huge fan of 2 food, 1 wealth, 1 magic, and 1 item card A. First, we'll mark down Sticky Fingers number 2. We'll put that right here. And then we'll go gain our spoils. We'll place down our 2 food, our 1 magic, and our 1 wealth, and then we gain item card A. We have received a witch's bite, a witch's bile. During combat, I can discard this to gain 2 red cubes. That's going to be awesome. I'm just going to place this right there. Now, of course, Gerdwin has to take all of that because she's the only one that was in the location. Speaking of locations, I'm going to place card 107 right up here. That card is able to still be placed even though I don't have anything touching it. Unlike the original Fall of Avalon, where once you lost your menhirs, you would be removing cards. The cards stay out. They just flip to their weirdness side. So you still get to see those cards. And I technically could move up to here even though I don't know anything in there. But of course, I'm looking into the Book of Secrets and I'm actually exploring these locations. So I don't think I'm going to be going back up there anymore. And now that we're done with placing that location, I'm going to move back over here, taking 1 more of my energy down. And with that, it puts both of our characters at 2 energy, and Gerdwin has a detriment here that says, after you travel, if you have less than 2 energy, you lose 1 health. So I'm not sure if we want to press on. I think we're going to probably move 1 more location, but that's going to be it. Also, Elgin does have an issue that says whenever I resolve an on-entry effect in a weird location, he's going to gain 1 terror. So that's another reason I left him behind. But for now, we are both going to tick down 1 energy to be able to move into the next place. And since I did that, I'm going to have to lose 1 health for Gerdwin. We'll move our 2 characters over to this location, and this location states down here that I'm going to redraw and resolve a green encounter upon entering this area. Then I'm going to place 2 time markers on here, and then this will not activate again until both of those time markers are gone. At any time, I could choose to spend 2 energies to hunt, which means I'm going to gain 2 food, but I'm still going to draw and resolve a green encounter. It says on the bottom, the ballast walls of the narrow pass are covered in misshapen faces of stone, their mouths agape. All right, we'll place that back down here, and we'll move our 2 characters over to here and resolve a green encounter. Now remember, we put the green encounters, and the first one you have is this is your first encounter. So we're going to take a look and have to deal with this character right here, a large weird rat. Let's see if we can take out a weird rat. Now, unlike the diplomatic encounters that we did, we're going to be doing a combat encounter. So our goal in this is now to gain points into our pool. We're going to try to get as many of these cubes into the pool as possible. Once we have 5, which is shown right up on the top of this card, that means that we have defeated it and we're going to be able to gain the loot at the end. Some of the other things you're going to see on this is instead of them moving the things up and down like in diplomatic encounters, this one is straight up going to probably do stuff to you. So based on how many cubes are in the pool up here, it's going to perform different actions. And this one is a very basic enemy, but moving forward, some of the more advanced enemies could have things, it could be almost nothing happens, and as they get farther down, more powerful attacks come at you, or it could be just the opposite. It could be that, or even in the middle, some of the harder things can happen. It's going to be totally different for each enemy. It's a really cool system. On the bottom here, you do see opportunity. This means that if you choose to not play a card on your turn, the monster does this particular opportunity attack. Now, every one of them is different based on the monster, of course, but that is going to be the deal. Also, if you don't want to use cubes, you also have this combat tracker dial. So if you want to, you can just keep track of how much damage you're doing based on your dial, and that way you don't have to use the cubes. You can use that dial instead. But for this, we're going to use cubes. It's going to be super fun, and besides, the cubes are super cool. Not saying this isn't cool, it's pretty cool too. We'll start by checking out the card here. Starting the combat, we're going to draw 3 cards from the combat deck. You may redraw, and then we're going to check the enemy traits. Now, the only trait this one has is the one that states at the end of the encounter, remove this card from the game. So we're no longer going to be fighting a weird rat after this. It's going to be totally gone. Just like in the previous one, we're going to draw 3 cards for Gerdwin. Gerdwin has got Silver Bolt, she's got an Reposition, and she also has Defend. And again, these are going to try to link up to do different things, and based on your skills, you're going to be activating different parts of these cards. But remember, instead of trying to move a track up and down, we're going to be trying to gain red points on cubes for this particular enemy. We do have Elgin's cards as well. Elgin's has a Poisonous Candle, a Spark, and another Spark. Oh my gosh, are you kidding me? That's going to be awesome if I can get them to work together. We'll see if I can. I don't know if we can. Interestingly enough, with Gerdwin's cards, I am going to discard all these. I don't like those. I'm going to draw 2 new cards for her. Those are all actually pretty terrible cards that aren't going to help us at all. We have Disabling Bolt and we have Defend. Similar to the diplomatic encounters, we're going to start by picking an active character. That character is then going to start any of the delayed abilities. We'll remove those time tokens and activate them if you remove the last one. We're going to play 1 card, and that card can then be additional cards can be played if that bonus is attached. If you didn't play any card, though, I have to resolve the opportunity attack. But at any time I may escape, proceed to the phase 3, and after the end of that, and then after that, end the encounter. And phase 3 is the enemy attack. So we're not going to be running away. We're going to give it our best shot here, and we'll hopefully do well. I'm at least hoping we do well. We'll take a time token and we'll start with Elgin. Elgin is going to play his Poisonous Candle. We'll line that up. Again, it's not doing anything because I don't have any aggression on him. But as we go forward, when I gain some experience points, I could put points in that if I wish to, making the Poison Candle at least actually do some damage when it's laid down. At this point, I am going to play this card as well. And we're going to resolve these cards in order. So the first one we're going to do is we're going to place 3 time tokens on this card. And then this one is going to make me be able to remove one of those time tokens from the candle cards that we have. I could, if I want to, spend a magic point to be able to either draw a card over here, or I can use it to gain 1 red cube. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to keep my magic. I'm able to play this second card because I do have 1 in my courage slot in my skills, so I am able to play that extra card. That's going to be the end of my turn. I have 0 red cubes up there, so that means Elgin is going to take 2 damage, bringing his life total down to 5. That's the end of his turn. We'll go to the combat encounters rules here. After the enemy resolves an encounter card, then we're going to check the readiness. If each party member is activated, go to phase 5. Otherwise, we're going to go back to phase 1. We're going to pick the active character. This time, our active character is going to be Gerdwin. Gerdwin is going to activate next. Gerdwin is going to play this card right here. It's going to help a little bit. It's going to give me 1 because I have 2 in my practicality, but I only have 1 in courage, so it's not going to do 2 red cubes, but I am going to place 1 red cube up there. On top of that, when this card is played, I'm going to be able to either gain 2 red cubes in a 1-player game. In a 2-player game, I'm going to gain another red cube. Also, before I played the card, I do have to remove 1 of these time tokens from the Poisonous Candle. That's the end of Gerdwin's action, and another card I had would have been Defend. I could have potentially played Defend and not done the 2 red cubes if I wanted to, because we know this Poisonous Candle is going to go off at the beginning of whoever plays the next card, which means I could have put Defend in there, prevented any damage, and then actually, that might be even a better idea. I'm going to actually forget that. I'm going to do this. This isn't going to do anything at all. I'm going to take back the 2 red cubes. This is a way better idea, I think. I like this idea so much better. I am going to play Defend for Gerdwin. Gerdwin's not going to actually do any damage to this monster. This monster is going to attack for 2 damage. But as you can see here, I do have to place a time token on this card. It says here that when there's no time tokens, I get to draw a card also. And when the monster attacks, the entire party can prevent 2 damage. So I'm going to prevent the 2 damage going to Gerdwin. That's going to be the end of that turn for her. She is going to be completed. And then we're going to check our readiness. All of our party members have activated, so we're going to go to the end. We're going to discard down to 3 cards. Not going to happen. We're going to draw 1 card each, and then we're going to clear our activation tokens and start a new turn. So we'll take off those activation tokens. each of our characters are going to draw one card. Elgin has got himself Defend, and we have this for Gerdwin, which is going to be Charge. That's pretty awesome. I've taken the 2 time tokens off, and we'll figure out who is going to activate first. Gerdwin is going to activate, and she is going to remove both of these time tokens. When these time tokens are removed, the first one is going to gain 3 cubes on the enemy here because of the poisonous cube, or poisonous candle. Super good card. This one, though, when I remove them, I get to draw another combat card for Gerdwin. Gerdwin is going to gain Powerful Blow, which hopefully will be pretty good too. That's the end of that. All right, then I'm going to activate her by playing 1 card. And it's going to be a big shock. It's going to be the one you saw earlier. I'm going to play my 1 card, which is going to be Disabling Bolt, which is going to do 2 cubes worth of damage, 1 for linking up right here, and then 1 for the card itself, which is 5. At any point when you reach the number that is written up here, the end of the battle has happened. So I am going to gain 1 food. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We have our 5 cubes. We're going to gain 1 food, and we're going to remove this card from the game. And that's the end of our combat. I'm going to give that 1 food to Elgin, and we'll figure out whose cards are who. Once we figure that out, we have Gerdwin's and Elgin's cards. We're going to take all of those cards and mix them together, and so our combat decks will be ready for the next combat we're in. I'm going to place 2 time tokens down on this card, and I'm going to check out the Stone Chorus here. Actually, we might end for the day because we only have 1 energy each, and I think we're going to be done. So looking at our Order of the Day card, at the end of the day it says Resolve End of Day Effects. We don't have any. We can rest. If you're exhausted, you're going to gain 4 energy. Otherwise, place your energy marker at the starting slot. Remember, your energy cannot surpass your wound, or your wounds, I think it is. The amount of damage you have taken, your health. Then it says Recover. You may pay 1 food once to give yourself 1 health, 1 energy, and lose 1 terror. Suffer from weirdness, lose 2 and gain 2. We're not in a weirdness location. And we can advance your character by paying experience points. We don't have that. We can modify your decks. What that means is as you go forward in this game, you can pay experience points to gain cards towards your deck. And you can modify those decks at any time when you go to the end of day. So even if you didn't pay to get new cards, you could still modify your deck because you might have cards that you may think coming up in the future might be better to have. Now it says here, if you're in a location with this symbol, you may read the visions. Then we'll start our next day by going to stage 1. So let's take care of all of these starting from the top. First, with Elgin, he is not exhausted. In order to be exhausted, you have to go to 0, which it says right here, exhausted. Some people might have a different number there. We're not exhausted, so we're going to gain our max energy back because it is still not lower than our max health, which is 5. Our terror is at 0. I could pay 1 food if I want to raise my health up by 1 and gain 1 more energy, which is kind of a bonus. Why not? Let's do that. I'm going to spend 1 food and 1 food to gain that energy and that health. Gerdwin is going to do the same. We're going to pay a food to lower our terror, put our energy at max, then gain 1 because we're going to gain both an energy and a health. If you turn to 103 in your adventure journal and turn to the very back page, there's the visions area. So it says here, it's infuriating. Year after year, countless travelers walk by, chittering in their pathetic human voices. In the meantime, you are forced to stay silent. What stories would you tell, given the voice? What horrors and madness from eras long past would you bestow on your listeners? Eventually, you can no longer contain yourself, the eons of tragedies and triumphs itching to get out. And as the weirdness envelops you, blurring the lines between what's possible and what's not, you suddenly find a way to express everything boiling inside you. Suddenly, you begin to sing, and your voice feels the air from the tips of the 4 maidens to the lone waystone of the King's Pass. Your voice will shake the earth and make everyone in the nearby lands flee in fear. We have a new lead. The Stone Chorus learned its songs from travelers passing up and down the trail of the King's Pass. If you come back to it with a song it doesn't know, it could learn something new. And at this point, the vision ends. So again, I am going to state you may want to take notes in this game. So for example, I might want to make a note that on card 103, the Stone Chorus, I want to come back with a new song. With that completed, we'll go to the start of the day. We'll move into our card here, and it states resolve the start of day effects. There aren't any. We're going to remove one time from the time tokens here. We'll get rid of one of these time tokens. We're going to put our waystone back up that I knocked down because it's super cool to have them all like that. They're really neat. Okay, there we go. Then we have to flip the locations that don't have waystones to their weird side. We'll activate any guardians. We don't have any of that. We'll clear the active events area except for cards that have a red lock on them. Then we'll reveal and read a new event card to move into the next day, and we're going to keep knocking that down. Now our event card here does have that lock in it, so I'm just going to place it above here, and the only reason I think you're keeping this card alive is because it gives you that idea of what you're supposed to do, so your quest is still active. We're going to take our next card off the top of our chapter deck, and we're going to reveal it. It says, Night Guests. As you make camp, you notice strange shapes lurking in the dark at the edge of your visions. In the late evening silence, their inhumane whispers reach your ears, making your skin crawl, even though you can only make out a single word. The sword of old, cradle, ruined ones, the passage east. Finally, you can't take it anymore. You grab a flaming branch from the campfire and swing it at them, sending sparks into the starry night above. The shapes slither back into the darkness, though you are confident they will return soon. It's best to hurry. Each character loses 1 health and gains 1 horror. So we'll put that there, or I should say terror, sorry. So I'm going to mark that down on both of our boards. Both characters are still doing okay, but you know, losing points is not good. I do want to mention that Elgin's did go from 6 to 5, which means we are closer to losing max amount of energy that we can have. Another thing I forgot to do, which I'm sure a lot of people noticed as soon as I walked into this place, is I forgot to place the new card up here. There should be card 105 placed right here with the weirdness of because there isn't a waystone touching it right there. But the first thing I think we're going to do in the day is we are going to use our action to activate a waystone. We are going to both pay 1 magic, and then we're both going to pay 1 food per person. And that way we're going to get rid of those resources to be able to put down another waystone. And that's going to touch these areas here, igniting this and making this visible to us. So let's take a look at what is up here. We have found ourselves Wagenberg. And it says here, relax in the Wagenberg. And I can use that for 2 energy to lose 2 terror and 1 terror more for each point that I have in my empathy. Then that says down here, the armored wagons completely block the narrowing trail, stopping anyone who can't afford an exorbitant toll. Well, that's fantastic. All right, we're going to put that there. Now, I can't reveal this card yet until I move into there, which is probably about to happen, because I am going to spend 1 energy for both of us to move up there. Also, in order to activate that, remember, I had to spend 2 energy along with the with the different resources here as well. So unless I say something differently, we are going to be doing this as a party, so I'm going to spend 1 to activate the waystone and 1 to move with Elgin. We're going to do the same with Gurgwin. We're going to move 1, and then we're going to use the waystone, and then we're going to move 1. We're down to 5. Now, since we did move up to this place, we do get to reveal card 106, and that one is the Reflected Town. The Reflected Town, I can ask the Hermit for healing. I can pay 1 wealth to gain 3 health. To gain 3 health. That makes sense. The spires and townhouses of this once prosperous Lothian settlement live on as a reflection of the past. So we'll place that down right here. That is an option to go to. And I also have the ability to put another waystone up there if I want to, but there isn't anything going up into those directions unless we get over to here. This card does have 1 going up in that direction, so that might be a way to go. All right. We'll place those right like that. And at this point, we can check out this location. I don't see why not. It costs us nothing to check out 105. Here is Wagenberg, The last stretch of trail just before the King's Pass is safe and almost free of weirdness. Perhaps this is why a well-armored group of mercenaries and brigands set up their camp here. With the road blocked by a circle of their armored wagons, no one can go further north without their consent and without paying an exorbitant toll. If you don't have the obstacles part 1 status, go to verse 1. If you have the stocking up part 1 or 3 status, go to verse 9. I don't have that one, but I definitely don't have the obstacles one, so we're going to have to go to verse 1. As you reach the wagon fort and walk up to the only gap between the wagons, you notice several archers eyeing your every move from behind oaken bulwarks. A scar-covered man in a leather jerkin walks out of the camp to meet you. Dozens of metal rings braided into his beard clink as he goes. "You want to get to the pass? The toll is an ounce of gold per head." You gasp. This is way more than you could have expected, and certainly more than you can afford. Congratulations, you are closer to your goal, but there's a new problem to overcome. Each character gains 1 experience point. Discard your active quest card. Find and resolve the Chapter 1 Part 6 card. Do not change the structure of the rest of the deck. Gain Obstacles Part 1 status. We each are going to gain 1 experience, so we'll place those there. I'll put this one up with Elgin. I'm going to discard my active quest, which is this one right here. We're going to grab Chapter 1 card 6 out of here and read what it says. Place this card in your active events area. A group of brigands blocks the trail up to the King's Pass with their heavy war carts and extorts outrageous tolls. Short of collecting more gold than you've seen in a year, your only choice is to find a way to dislodge them from the trail. So at this point we have a new quest, find a way to get rid of the Wagenburg 105 to continue the journey north. Hint, there may be hidden ways to achieve this goal. All right, we'll place that down here. I'm going to actually get rid of this as well and place that one there. It is now our active quest. We'll fill in our obstacles part 1 here on our status sheet and then return to the map here. I think at this point I'm going to spend 1 energy to move out of here, because now that we know what we need to do, we need to get through this place. We're going to try to maybe find something over in this area over here. Maybe something good is there. I am not going to ask the hermit to help us. We're doing just fine. I am going to just explore the reflected town and see what we can find. Here's a picture of the reflected town. Again, looks pretty sweet. Apparently it is some flooded area here and some town that's seen better days. In ages past, a Lothian town stood at the edge of a clear mountain loch, its stone houses and spires reflecting in the water's silvery surface. The town is gone now, laid in ruin in some age-long past, but you've heard that the reflection lives on, etched eternally in the waters. A small stone shack rests by the shore, pieces of rubble haphazardly thrown together. A lone goat bleats in its wooden pen. If you don't have the Negotiator Part 1 status, go to verse 19, which we do. We did that. We got that. It says here, now, otherwise I can choose one. Okay, so I can choose any of these. Try to reach the overlook above the trail requires Gerdwin and the Topography Part 1 status. We don't have that. The next one is search the town ruins. I could do that. I could also take a swim in the lake. The water looks crystal clear and very inviting. Does that sound ominous? It says, look into the reflection of the lake. You cannot wait to see what their legends are true. Go to verse 1. The other one is we can visit the stone shack. You've never expected to find an inhabited home this close to the King's Pass. Go to verse 2. I could check the shattered waystone. Go to 6 or leave. I'm going to check the waystone. We can get something up and running here. The waystone once stood not far from the city gates in the northwestern part of the area, but the forces that leveled the city did not spare it. It lies in rubble, cracked, broken beyond repair. It would take nothing short of turning back the time for it to shine once more. Exploration ends. All right, I say we just go right back in. That did not cost us any energy or any time or anything to visit the check the shattered waystone, and it also doesn't take anything to check out the stone shack. Let's do that as well. If there's a time token on this location, the hermit won't talk to you now. Exploration ends. If you notice here, these red things here, there is a decoder in this game, but you don't get access to the decoder. It's actually an item in the game you have to try to achieve and get. So I don't have access to it right now, so I have no idea what that says. It says here though, if you have the notable deed part 1, go to verse 16. We don't have that, so we're just going to read on. In his simple dark robe with clean-shaven face and a halo of long gray hair, the hermit looks almost like a monk. Tall and lean, he towers over you as he says with contempt, "This is my place. What are you doing here?" At this point, we can choose one. Tell him you're looking for an adventure, tell him you're looking for a place to rest, or tell him you're a traveler trying to return home. I don't see why we're not just honest. Let's go with the tell him we're trying to return home. Let's go to verse 8. The hermit invites you inside his cramped shack. It smells of soot and sweat. He gives you a mug of warm goat's milk. "I know what it means to lose your home," he says, toying with an old green pendant hanging from his neck. "To be trapped away from those you love. Anyway, did you come to see the reflected town? You'd better off gambling in a brothel. The weather must be just right. The time of the day and the light must be just right. It never happens more than a couple times a year, sometimes even less than that." Seeing your disappointed face, he adds, "But I know of something that could help you see the reflection, a real treasure. Once I would never part with it, but I think I used it for too long. It's no longer good for me, you see. I'm ready to trade for whatever you can offer in return." At this point, we can choose one. We can buy his treasure, or we can leave. Well, I don't see leave as being an option. Let's buy the treasure. I can either pay 1 wealth, which we have 3 of. I could pay 1 food, which we have 3 of. Or I could discard 1 of my A cards, level A cards, which I do have this card if I wish to get rid of it. I kind of like that. I think we're going to get rid of 1 wealth that we have, and it's going to be Gerdwin's wealth. So that leaves Elgin and Gerdwin both with 1 health, and that gives us the ability to go to verse 14. The hermit removes one of the stones from his shack's wall and gives it to you. The stone is heavy, but appears mundane. Noting your confusion, the hermit scowls. "What, you thought that's it? I just need you to hold it, fool." From the hole behind the stone, he removes a small item carefully wrapped in layers of cloth and hands it to you. Through this weird glass shard, you can see the reflected town at any moment. It also serves to reveal many other hidden things. Just go out and give it a try. But remember, if you ever find your way into the reflection, do not ever speak. Your voice will stir the water, and then all sorts of horrible things will happen. Take the red color filter out of the box. I was just talking about this thing. And it says, important, from now on, whenever a verse you read contains a red covered text, you may use this filter to read it. Please note that the blue covered text requires a different filter to decipher, one that you will have to find yourself. Now, test the red color filter on the text below. I have it right here. We'll see if this actually works on camera. Oh my gosh, it totally works on camera. Go to Book of Secrets, verse 18. 18 states that each character gains 1 XP and the exploration ends. We're again going right back to 106. I have no reason not to now that I get the cool piece of glass. Let's see what we can do with it. We can look in the reflection of the lake. I don't see why we don't do that, right? I could take a swim in the lake or search the town ruins. I could use some energy for that. I think, well, you know, oh man, there's so many awesome things to do. I think the plan is to look in the reflection of the lake. It's not going to cost anything. It's going to go to verse 1. Number 1 does show that red revealer, so we're going to look at that and see what it says here. It says, go to Book of Secrets 385. As you peer at the waters of the lake through the strange warped piece of glass, you almost jump back with terror. Instead of your own reflection set against the ruins of the gray sky above, you see a colorful crowd walking down the stone promenade in the light of countless lanterns, with opulent stone townhouses behind them set against the night sky. This golden dream from an age long past is strangely hypnotizing. I can spend 1 energy. Enter the reflection requires all characters, or Strange Lessons Part 2. Go to verse 173. Otherwise, no, we're going to do this. So we're going to spend 1 energy to enter the reflection. And from what I understand, I believe that's only 1 person that has to do that. I could be wrong. If I am, please let me know in the comment section below. Also, as I'm playing through the game, if you notice any errors after I release the video, please let me know and put a timestamp in it along with that error. And I'll be able to put a Klingon subtitle in so people learning the game going forward can read those subtitles and see the errors and learn from them. You carefully walk into the water waist deep, trying not to stir the reflection in which the top half of your body sticks out of the lake near the town's promenade. Your wet face glistens with reflections of golden lanterns. You kneel and submerge your head. Then you slowly prostrate yourself. Golden light floods your eyes. Townsfolk on the promenade look at you strangely, probably not used to someone having a midnight bath. You no longer need to look through the glass. Everything is as real as the world you just left behind. You lift yourself up onto the stone embankment and join the crowd, soon reaching the main market of the town, still lively at this hour. I'm going to gain Strange Lessons Part 2 status and go to verse 189. We'll mark Strange Lessons number 2 right here on our status sheet and go to 189. The elegant townhouse frames the large market, still surprisingly lively at this hour. I can choose multiple options here. I can browse wares. The wares are unlike any you've seen cover the stalls. You can attempt to steal something. People here are calm and trusting. Surely you can use this to your advantage. Go to verse 120. It sounds like a bad idea. Walking down the main road toward the town gates, how far can this reflection extend? We could ask directions. The people here look friendly, or we can leave the reflection. Now, if I remember, you said something about not talking, so asking things is probably a bad idea. I'm not going to steal anything. So that brings us to only 2 options here. We can either browse the wares or we can walk down the main road. I'm going to browse the wares and see what we can find. It's pretty tempting to go down the road, though. Well, let's go to the wares. Let's check out maybe we can check out some stuff and then we can walk down later. The variety and beauty of displayed wares makes your head spin. Fancy clothes, elaborate children's toys, slender musical instruments. At the height of its power, the kingdom of Lothian offered its people many comforts that today are just hazy memory. However, you see nothing that would be useful to you right now. At this point, we can choose one. We can check the candles making supplies. If I have Elgin, I can check the Fletcher's supplies. If I have Gerdwin, which I have both of them, you can check the fireworks and flash powders if you have Osbert. I don't have him. And then we can ask about something else. I don't want to ask anything because it said something about talking is bad. Or I can go elsewhere, 189. Let's check out the Fletcher's wares. Let's go see if we can find something cool for Gerdwin, 73. Your legs stop in front of a Fletcher's stall, marveling at beautiful, slender bolts. This level of artisanship has gone in this land ever since Lothian was lost to the mists. You also notice a steel drawstring that seems to match your crossbow well. It would be an excellent replacement for your current one, made of twisted oiled sinew and rawhide, giving you a lot of added range. Unfortunately, the price is quite steep. I could hand the money to the stall owner only if you don't have the stocking up part 2 status. Pay 2 wealth. I do have 2 wealth, but that means I would have to use all the money that I have in order to do it. And why not? We're coming here, might as well do it, huh? And I'm not going to attempt to haggle because, again, that's going to have to probably do with talking, and remember, said not to talk at all here. So we're going to go to verse 128. Congratulations, you have learned a new combat action. Gain secret card 115 steel drawstring combat card and shuffle it into your Gerdwin's combat deck. I'm going to gain the stocking up part 2 status and go to verse 189. We'll gain stocking up status 2 here, and this is the card we got. It is the silver drawstring. Look at this. This is actually going to be bonkers. I don't know how we're ever going to connect to these things. 2 aggression, 3 caution, or sorry, courage, or 2 practicality in order to connect anything with this thing. But the ability right here, place 2 charges on this card. Pay 1 charge. You may treat the free key for the next card played as if it was a ×2. So we'll put, if we have even like 1 red cube here, that means we're going to get 2 no matter what. Even if we can't link anything up on this card. This card's actually going to be pretty awesome. And if we can actually link it with anything that's going to have to do with practicality, we're able to draw a card when it comes to our turn. So we'll shuffle this into Gerdwin's deck. We're back to the elegant townhouse frames of large markets and surprisingly lively. We're going to have to choose another thing to do. I don't think we're going to leave. We're not going to ask for directions. We're not going to attempt to steal. We browse the wares. We could also do that because we have Elgin, but I'm going to guess it's very similar and we don't have any more wealth to buy anything. And the last thing I guess I could do is walk down the main road toward the town gate. How far can this reflection extend? Let's check out verse 33. If you have one or more parts of time passes status appropriate for your chapter, go to verse 23. Otherwise, read on. I don't even know what that means, so we're going to read on. A stroll down the town's main street takes you farther and farther from the lake, yet the illusion persists. The crowd here is more sparse than on the market, and your weathered clothes and ragged equipment stand out more, just like you're gaping and gawking. Finally, a heavily armed town guard lugging a large shield takes interest in you and crosses your road. No vagabond allowed in the city proper. What are you doing here? I can either push past him, explain himself, or turn back and go back to the market. We're going to push past him because I don't want to say anything. Remember, said talking is a bad idea. Let's go to 40. The guard's equipment weighs him down and is remarkably easy to lose the chase in the twisted alleyways running parallel to the main street. That is pretty amazing. Soon, his screams disappear far behind you, and you continue your journey in peace. As you return to the main street, you stumble upon a small crowd of monks in front of their cloister. They seem to have gathered to say farewell to one of them, a young and lanky fellow with long black hair and a traveler's pack. Something about him looks faintly familiar. Let's go ahead and we can either watch the scene or ask one of the monks what's happening, not asking, or continue to the town gate. You're not sure whether you can idle here while the guard is still searching for you, but I think it'd be kind of cool to see what happens. All right, let's go to 45. The scraps of the conversation you managed to catch with your ear indicate this young priest decided to travel to a faraway shrine as his penance. His brothers are worried about his choice and give him countless pieces of advice about how to survive on the trail, the naivety of which makes you sneer. Finally, the order's priestess steps in and cuts the scene short. Enough! Stop pestering him, you fools! Mardigan! You need to go, my lad. Some shepherds just reported sighting of one of the kings of ruin in the fields to the west, lurking about as if wanting for something. It is best to travel now. You know what'll happen tonight. Promise you will come back to us once your penance is due, and take this with you. You have earned it. The prioress hangs a polished copper pendant on the neck of the young priest. He nods his head in respect and departs. You are now sure you have seen this amulet not long ago on the other side of the reflection. You decide to follow the man toward the city gates. Gain Faint Notion Part 2 and go to verse 55. Faint Notion is right here. We'll cross that off and give ourselves number 2 as a status going forward. As you step outside the open town gates, you realize this is as far as the reflection goes. The road dissolves into pure blackness just 100 feet away, beyond the dim waystone that rests askew outside the town's city limits. The travelers walk into the darkness as if it wasn't there, and sometimes it spits out a cart or a traveler heading toward the city. However, you do not dare to enter this oblivion. Instead, your eyes gravitate to the waystone. It is the same one that sits shattered at the edge of the ruin on the other side of the reflection. Only this waystone looks fine. Choose one. I can spend 2 energy, which my characters have, and pay 1 magic per character, which I don't have, pay 1 wealth or 1 food per character. Wait, pay 1 magic per character, pay 1, okay, and go to verse 211, or I can pay the blood price. To activate the Northwestern Waystone, pay 3 health per character and gain 2 terror per character, and go to verse 211, or return to Lakeside Market. Sadly, we have to do the blood price. I really want to get this up and running. I think that's a good idea. I don't think that it's a good idea to just walk away from this. So we're going to pay the blood price of 3 health per character and 2 terror. So that's going to bring Curdwin down 1, 2, 3, and Terror up 1, 2. Ooh, at least we got some food to eat that maybe can counterbalance this at some point. Here's where I'm a little worried. 3, 1, 2, 3 brings down to 2, which is pretty bad, and 1, 2 to go up here. We really need to find a way to heal this guy. Despite the unreal vistas around you, waking the stone is no harder than waking any other one you have met so far. All it takes is an ounce of magic and a small offering of something you hold dear. It begins to glow, instantly causing the world around you to ripple with light clearly at odds with the illusion surrounding you. Soon the reflection disappears and you find yourself shivering in the cold waters of the mountain lake, the ruins of the town now stretching before you, more somber than ever. Your teeth chattering, you notice that the damaged waystone in front of the ruins is now aglow with a faint aura. Several explanations rush through your head, one weirder than the other, but regardless of what caused the stone, the weirdness all around you is receding. The road further west is now open, offering access to the grim battleground and the mountain slopes beyond it. Note: not every waystone in the game will be placed in the marked corner of the location card. The waystone marks only show you where easily accessible stones are that may be activated when you are in a location, according to the standard rules. Some other waystones may be hidden and may require some exploration to access. Place a waystone in the top left corner of location 106. After you place the waystone, don't forget to flip any revealed weird locations that have this waystone to their clear side. Our exploration ends. So that was super cool. I get to put a waystone here, right up there, which means it is touching this location, which means we get to flip this over to the clear side, and we have found the shattered battleground. I can use 2 to gather latent powers, gain 1 magic for each point in your spirituality, which means I could gain 2 magic for Elgin if I wanted to. It says here, 3 kings of ruin clashed here in an age-long past, erasing the local waystone and a nearby Lothian town from existence. Oh, that's pretty awesome. All right, this is going to go right here. That explains a lot of what happened over here in the town. And look, it kind of matches up. One thing I really enjoy about this, the art travels the cards. Just very similar to other card games that are very story-based like this. All right, that is the end of that. So, what are we going to do next? I could ask the Hermit for healing. I could pay 1 wealth to gain 3. I don't have any wealth. Oh my gosh, we're in a heap of trouble here. I would really love to heal 3, but it doesn't look like it's going to happen. Here's what we're going to do. We're both going to spend 1 energy to move over here, and then we're both going to spend an energy to gain 1 magic for each point in our spirituality, which means we are going to gain 2 magic because I have 2 on Elgin. Now, the thing is, I think if I play this right, if Gerdwin would have even had 1 in spirituality, it wouldn't have mattered because we're doing it together. You're only going to take the bonus of the highest point in the party. So we'd only get 2, even though the character would have had 1. Now, if I'm wrong about that, please let me know in the comments below, but I believe that's how this works. So we're going to put a time token on this because we're going to take advantage of this ability here, and we're going to move over and get some magic. Moving and using 1 of our time to gain our magic is going to leave us with 1. And for Gerdwin, moving and using 1 to help get that magic is going to leave her at 2. And that's going to be exactly where we want to keep her, because otherwise she's going to start taking damage. And I'm going to gain 2 magic, so I'm going to give her 1 magic, and I'm also going to give Elgin 1 magic as well. So both our characters have 1. At this point, we are going to end the day effect. We're going to rest. If you're exhausted, gain 4. Otherwise, place your energy marker at the starting slot. Remember, your energy cannot surpass your health. So we're going to move it up to 6 for Gerdwin, but because Elgin got pretty banged up, he's only going to be able to bring it up to 4. At this point, we can choose, if we want to recover, and I can pay 1 food once to gain 1 health, 1 energy, and lose 1 terror or 1 horror. And we are totally going to do that. We're going to bring this down to 2, bring this up to there, get 1 here, eat this food, goodbye Mr. Food. And we are going to do the same with Gerdwin. We're going to raise her up a little bit here by spending 1 of our food. At this point, we are going to suffer from weirdness. We are not going to have to deal with that. We're going to advance your character by paying experience. I think for the time being, we're going to keep the experience we have. I want to build up maybe a little bit more before we decide exactly what we want to do with it. Then if you're in any locations that have this icon, you are going to be able to read your vision if you wish to. Then we're going to start the next day. Our hunting ground card does not have the symbol for visions, so we're just going to start the next day. We are going to remove 1 time from each card on the board. That means this one will be removed. Also, the one at the stone chorus will be removed as well. So if we do go back to the stone chorus at all, we are going to have to resolve a green encounter now. At this time, we'll flip any of the locations that are not touching waystones back to the weird side, activate our gardens, clear the active events area except for any that have a locked symbol in them, and we do have one in there. Then we're going to reveal and read the new event card. So since this one has a locked thing, it's going to stay there. We're just going to flip this over, reveal our next event. It says here, the Seekers gather. Someone visits you in the dead of the night. I'm going to go to Book of Secrets, verse 15. Before we go too much further, I do want to note that I missed this again. 108, when I moved into here, I should have placed down card 108. So we'll find that and place it there. And this particular card is going to be flipped to the clear side because it is touching a waystone here. It is an Iron Cage Fells. I can hunt the glens, gain 2 food, draw and resolve 1 green encounter. A small iron cages dot the sloping hill, some old and rusted through, some newly forged. There are shapes inside and you're not sure whether you want to see them. So we'll place that right there. Wow, more places we can go. That's amazing. The sounds of the sea gently wakes you up, the same sound that accompanied your every morning for the last several years spent in Four Maidens. It takes a moment for you to realize you are no longer there. You are on a mountain trail near the King's Pass, and this is not the sound of a sea, but countless overflapping whispers that blur together in a single liquid hum that rises and falls like a tide. This realization is enough to make you spring to your feet instantly. Crooked shapes sway in the dark around you, each horrible in its own way. They glisten with old coins that hang from them like amulets, some pinned scrolls or scraps of paper to their flesh. They carry torches, candles, braziers, anything that could light their path. King Seekers! Cursed creatures obsessed with finding their way to the court of Arthur. Warped by weirdness they spend most of their time in. You've never seen so many of them in one place. Now you realize it is them who kept haunting you in your last days of your journey. They were the shadows that seemed to follow your every step. But why did they seek you? The wind carries your name, one of the creatures says, interrupting your thoughts. The weirdness shows glimpses of the future. We've seen you standing in front of the 3 monarchs of ruin, the sacred goblet filled with blood, the old crown restored, the road east open, the true king. The king, the king! The other kingsayers sway in excitement, repeating the word. The true king found! You tell them to go away. You're just a traveler. The goal that pushed you onto this trail already seems impossible, not to mention seeking a route east of facing the king's ruin. But it seems you have little say in the matter. The king seekers keep closing their circle, ignoring your thrashing. They grab you by your arms, their long fingers digging deep into your flesh as the stench overpowers you. Finally, one of them lifts his hand and touches your forehead. You throw your head back in pain. It's almost as if white-hot iron touched your skin. The king's seers immediately begin to retreat. One of us, they say. One of us! Seek the king! You collapse to the ground. Gain secret card 8. If you're in location 109, go to verse 16. No, we're not in 109. Otherwise, exploration ends. Here's secret card number 8. It is the brand of the King Seers. So it says here, some of the highest honors to others, a grim sentence. I can spend 0 energy to drain the waystone, and read Book of Secrets 900. Oh my gosh, that's kind of interesting. So I can take the life force of a waystone away. That's pretty neat. Or maybe it's neat, I don't know. We'll go ahead and give this to, I guess we'll put this with Elgin. And that is the end of this exploration. It costs us no energy to check out the Shattered Battleground since the beginning of the day. I don't see why we don't do that. I think we have gotten to the point where we can do our activations. We revealed our new event card, and now we get to go during the day. Players perform actions in any order until one of them decides the day ends the day. So at this point, we're going to check out the Shattered Battleground. If you have one or more parts of Time Passes Chapter 1 status, go to verse 11, otherwise read on. I don't have that. With the merciful shroud of weirdness lifted, the pock-marked face of this damaged land now lies in full view. each hill cleaved in half, each impact crater glistening with shards of obsidian. Each discarded weapon and piece of an ancient armor tells a different part of a single story. The tale of the night where three kings of ruin clashed, reshaping the land itself forever. Twisted shapes lurk between shattered stones and deep crags, as if drawn to powers still lingering here. They make it impossible to reach some parts of the battlefield, and the more time you spend here, the greater chance they take interest in you. So here's our many choices. We've got lots here. Reach the cleaved hillside. Half the rocky hill seems to have been sliced off. I can go to verse 1. I can reach the golden cathedral. A metallic structure glistens far away among the ash. Go to verse 3. I can reach the bubbling pool. First off, that sounds like a bad idea. A strange bubbling substance fills one of the craters. Nope. Reach the titanic helm. It requires chapter 5. I can't do that. Reach the cracked orb requires chapter 5. Also, again, I can't do that. So I don't know if that bubbling pool sounds like a great idea. So far we can go to the cleaved hillside or the golden cathedral. I don't know. I don't think any three of these are going to be very good idea. Or I can leave. But whoever leaves an exploration, you just get to. Let's check out the golden cathedral. That sounds pretty awesome. As you get closer and closer to the cathedral, it grows smaller and smaller. The perspective played a trick on you. It is not a building, but a giant pauldron with an ornament that resembles a temple. No mortal would wear something this heavy and unwieldy into combat. Still, they say that Claudine the Unknighted was known for golden armor that depicted his dream, a new capital to shame homelands. The unfinished city of Sorlos. All right, cool. There are gemstones embedded in the pauldron, but prying them loose would require incredible strength. If you have at least 2 aggression, I do not. The most I have is 1. I can go to verse 9. Otherwise, I'm going to place a time token on the location, so we're going to do that. And we're going to go to verse 10. So we have 1 time on there. Verse 10 states that I have to roll a die and add +2 for each time on this location, then check the result below. 0 to 6, nothing happens. 7 to 8, one creature takes a passing interest in you. You manage to narrowly avoid it. Each party member gains 1 terror. That's horrible. You are attacked. Discard all of the time tokens from this location. Draw and resolve a combat purple encounter regardless of the result. The exploration ends. Barf. So we'll take our d6, roll it in, and see what we get. We got 2 + 2 is 4. That means nothing happens. So if I can go to one more place, that means I'll be adding 4. And so if I get, no, I think, I'm good. I think I saw what I needed to in the shattered battleground. I think it's time to move again. It did take 1 energy to do that. It didn't say per party member, so I'm just going to use Gerdwin to check out the Golden Cathedral. We are going to move together to the Iron Cage Fells, and it's going to cost us each 1 energy, bringing Gerdwin down to 5 and Elgin down to 4 energy. And at this point, I think we're going to just check this place out, 108. Here we are at the Iron Cage Fells. Oh my gosh, look at this. This guy, somebody's in there trying to get out. Maybe it's a good person. Relatively flat slopes once extended all the way to the King's Pass, offering an alternative path for travelers heading there. Sadly, it ended when the weirdness cut the landscape in half, opening a wide chasm at its top. Iron cages dot the fells, some old and rusted through, some still pretty new, but you are at a loss as to what they could mean. Dead silence reigns over this strange landscape. If you're playing Chapter 5, Part 3, and you have Secret Card 10, go to verse 7. Otherwise, I get to choose one. I can approach the chasm for nothing, or 2 energy to search the cages. There's so many of them. Go to verse 1. It's kind of screaming at me to go to verse 1. I think we might do that. We are going to pay that 1 each, bringing Gerdwin down to 3 and Elgin down to 2. The cages at the bottom of the fells are old, empty, and rusted through. Many are open, though it's impossible to determine whether something burst out from the inside or tore into the cage from the outside. The cages vary in size, though most seem barely large enough to hold 1 sitting human. If you have the Foraging Part 3 status, go to verse 3. Otherwise, read on. In one of the cages, among shattered bones and rags, you find a dusty object and some scattered coins. I'm going to gain 1 wealth and item A and the forging part 3 keyword, which means it basically is saying that I just can't keep coming here and keep collecting this. So here's our item A card. We have found ourselves All Mother's Amulet. During an encounter, when the enemy attacks, I can flip this card to gain 1 less terror, which wouldn't be bad. I'm going to give that to Elgin for right now because, well, he's got the most terror. Actually, they're tied. They're tied in terror. Elgin got the last card. We're going to give this one to Gerdwin. I also get 1 wealth, and that is only 1 wealth. It's not per player. So we're going to give this to we're going to give it to Elgin because Elgin had to give his up so Gerdwin could get the bowstring. And we're going to go to verse 3, and I'm going to mark down that we now have forging part 3 status. We'll cross that off right here. Wow, we're getting a lot of these stats. This is kind of cool. I like this game. Most cages in the middle of the fell are newer and still hold together, keeping the content behind bars. Some imprison gruesome, swollen remains barely resembling anything. In others, warped bodies move slowly, clad in ragged human clothes. If you have the Risk Taker Part 1 status, go to verse 5, otherwise read on. With your heart in your throat, you're about to move farther up when you notice a thick purse still attached to the belt of one of the living abominations. I can choose one. I can attempt to snatch the purse. You must be smart about it if you don't want to be spotted. Go to verse 6. Or I can continue your search. Something tells me I'm being set up, so I'm not going to attempt to snatch that purse. I think that's going to be a setup and I'm going to get into a combat of some kind or something bad is going to happen. I'm going to continue my search and go to verse 5. The cages at the top of the fell are fairly new and filled with wailing, mutated creatures you do not wish to approach. Besides, thick weirdness makes it difficult to see or reach most of them. Spending more time here would be a fool's errand. If you have Song of Avalon Part 1 status, there's nothing more to find here. Exploration ends. But look at this. I've got a red revealer thing I can stick on here. It does say, go to Book of Secrets 152. So we are totally going to do that. Most of the cages at the top of the fells are still paned black and unspoiled with rust. Some contain cadavers in various states of decomposition and mutations. Some still hold living things, too far gone for any help. You put your weird glass shard to your eye and see more, and only then notice one place that stands out. Not far from the top of the hill, a small girl sleeps in a cage curled up on the ground, a child left for the horrific powers of weirdness. You look back at the cages dotting the hill, suddenly understanding fully what transpired here. Someone was leaving human offerings here for years, months after month. Did they really think this would cause the weirdness covering the king's past to recede? It seems to have worked for a while, judging from the fact that the oldest cages were further down the slope. The fact that deep gash eventually destroyed the route in front makes all this suffering all the more tragic. The girl wakes up after a careful nudge, her horrific scream turning into a long sob as she realizes you are not here to hurt her. While you work to free her of her prison, she shares the details of the horror she's been through. She lived in one of the windmills on the shunned lands, oh, it's that girl, until a wandering group of druids took her from her home. They locked her up here and left. When the weirdness was close by, the girl endured singing an old song her mother taught them. When the weirdness receded, she rested, slept, and dug for edible roots. Once free, the girl tells you she will find the way home on her own. She's not afraid of weirdness anymore. Walking down the slope, she begins to sing a strange, sorrowful song. The weirdness itself appears to accompany her, its opalescent wisps resonating in the wind and swirling to the tune of her voice. Soon the song dies out in the distance, but you shall not forget it. Gain the Songs of Avalon Part 1 status and the Champions of the Small Folk Part 1 status. That's sweet. Each character gains an experience, and I've got some new leads. I can return to the Shunned Lands for some reward. I can also, the strange song resonates with weirdness. If you find a way to amplify it, the result could be spectacular. So if we go back to the Shunned Land, which is quite a walk, which isn't the end of the world, we could do it, And also at that stone chorus was probably, remember they were looking for a song. I took notes. I know where to go maybe, in theory. We shall see. So we're going to get both of those statuses and we're going to be done with the exploration, but of course we also are each going to gain 1 XP. First status we're going to get is the Songs of Avalon number 1. So maybe we need 3 of them, but for right now we have 1. And also the Champion of the Small Folk. Part 1, that's going to be fantastic. We'll get that one too. And both our characters are up to 3 experience points. We'll place that on their board. So now we have quite a trek to get from here back down to the Shunlands to potentially gain, quote, our reward, which isn't bad. I'm going to start by paying 2 energy to move all the way to 106, and that's going to bring Gerdwin down to 2 and Elgin down to 1 energy. Now I could pay 1 energy for the Hermit to heal me 3, but if I do that, I'm going to go into my, the exhausted stage, and when we are done with the end of the day, and I go to replenish my energy, I'm only going to get to 4. I can't go any higher. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have Gerdwin pay the 1 wealth and use her energy to be able to heal a character 3 damage. Now when I do this, it does say after you travel, if you have less than 2 energy, lose 1 health. Now I did not travel, so I'm not going to lose the health. I'm going to pay the 1 energy and we're going to heal Elgin. Elgin's going to heal 3, 1, 2, 3, up to the top almost, which is pretty awesome. I believe I can do that because we are traveling as a party, so we can spend energy for doing things as we can split it however we want, and of course I can use my wealth to pay for that. If I'm wrong about that, please let me know in the comments below. I'm going to use a food to heal myself 1 when we go to the end of day because we're at the end of the day. But let's go ahead and check it out here. It says resolve the end of the day effects. We're going to rest. So if we go, we're going to gain our energy back. So first we're going to go back to 6. That's the max we can go to. Then it says if we want to, we can recover by paying 1 food to heal ourselves 1, gain 1 energy, and lose 1 terror. Elgin is not going to be able to do that because I'm out of food, but he still gets to go to 6 energy. Moving down the rest of the end of day card here, I can recover. I did that, suffer weirdness, not going to happen. I can advance my characters. I can modify my decks. If you're in a location with one of these, I can read a vision. We're going to do that. And then we're going to start the next day. Now, if I wanted to, I could start using my experience points. The way this works is if you want to gain skills, if you have 0 and 0 in both skills, it's going to cost you 2 experience points, put a cube in one of the 2 skills. If you have one already in the skill, like I have one here in empathy, it would cost me 3 experience points to place one either in aggression or another one into empathy. And it goes up based on how many you have. So since I have 3 in these, it's going to cost me a lot of experience points to put a 4th one over here. Or I could choose to gain a skill in spirituality that will attach over here. If I wish to advance my diplomacy deck or my combat deck, it costs me 2 experience points to draw 3 random advanced cards for the deck of my choice. I could choose which one I want to do, but once you choose and you see the cards, that's the one you chose. So say I decided like I'm going to advance my diplomacy deck, I would spend 2 experience points, draw 3 cards, choose one of them to shuffle into my deck. Now, if you add more cards to your deck, it's going to be harder to find them. You're also allowed to remove as many cards you want to, but you always have to have at least 10 cards in each of your decks. So at some point, I could maybe get 5 great advanced cards, and I'll remove 5 basic cards from there that I don't think are that great compared to the direction I'm deciding to build my character out. So it's kind of cool. So it's so many different ways you can advance your character. You can either go for the skills, you can work on their decks, you could do a little bit of both. There's just so many different ways to build out these characters, and each character is completely unique. You saw that when you saw some of the combat and diplomacy cards these have. They have completely different decks. Of course, a few of them have some of the same ones, but there are some great examples of the fact that each character has a set of things moving forward that can keep them unique. We are at 106, so we're going to read the vision for that. It says, a calm dream of gold-bathed streets and colorful massed crowds. You dance, you eat, you wake strangely at peace. Each party member loses 1 terror. That's awesome. I am down to 1 terror for Elgin, and that means Gerdwin has no terror at all, and our vision ends. At the start of the day, we are going to remove any of the time tokens. So we do have a time token here. We're going to remove that. Then we're going to continue on. It says flip locations that don't have these attached. They all are doing great. No guardians. I'm going to clear any events except for that one. So we are going to clear the event we read about, that event right there. We're going to draw a new event and see what we have found. We found ourselves Moss to the Flame. The lit waystone along the trail of the King's Pass begins to attract unwanted attention. Search the green encounter deck. Place the Hex Leech green encounter difficulty 1 in the lowest numbered location with a waystone. If there is no waystones, place it in the lowest numbered location. Hint, guardian encounters prevent you from exploring any location they're in, depending on the roll of the guardian die. Each day, they may also attack you or even drain a waystone of its power. Oh no! See Guardian rules in the rule book for more information. Okay, we gotta take this Guardian out. All right, first we're gonna go find this Guardian and put him out. I believe this is our Hexed Leech miniature, so we're going to place this down on the board right in the Shunned Lands, because it says that it is going to be placed in the, where is it, difficulty 1, lowest numbered location with a waystone. So 101 has a waystone attached to it, so that is the lowest number. Of course, that's right where I'm going. Why wouldn't it be there? That's amazing. All right, let's go take on the Hex Leech, because I'm not going to want this guy on the board for long. Let's see how powerful he is. I don't see why we can't look at him since he's running around on the board. He's got 6. We have to do 6 red cubes to him. I'm going to lose magic or gain 2 terror. Let's see here. The other thing we can do is we're going to lose a red cube at 4. All party members lose a magic and it runs away. Opportunity takes 1 damage. I get 1 food and 2 magic. If I defeat this thing, I think I just totally want to go take this guy out. I don't see why not. Okay, we're going to spend 1. Oh, well, first I got to find another encounter coming through here. 1, 2. We're going to move into this location. That's going to cost us 2 energy, bringing Elgin to 4. And we're going to bring Gerdwin to 5. And it says here, draw and resolve a green encounter. And after I do that, I'm going to place 2 time on that location. Our green encounter that we have drawn is going to be a wolf pack. So before we can even take on the Hex Leech, we got to take on this wolf pack. Once nearly extinct, the wild wolves have returned to Avalon to fill the void left by retreating human settlers. It's exhaustive. All right, we'll have to look at that, what that word does. And here's everything it has to do with. All right, let's take on these wolves and see if we're mighty enough to defeat the wolf pack. If we can't defeat the wolf pack, I think we're going to have a lot of trouble with that. On the back of your card that has to do with the icons, there is a full thing of enemy traits. An exhaustive says before the enemy is going to do its attack, discard 1 card from the top of your deck. Now remember, you can't shuffle your deck back in when it's all empty, so you want to try to take these guys out as fast as you can, otherwise they're going to exhaust you and you're not going to be able to defeat them. For this combat, I am going to use the combat dial. I think it'd be kind of cool to show off how exactly that works. Now remember, we shuffled up our deck, so I'm going to give them another truffle shuffle here real quick. And then we're going to grab 3 cards, 1, 2, 3. Those are going to be Gerdwin's cards, and then we're going to shuffle up Elgin's deck, even though, again, like I said, I did a little bit off screen after we fought the last guy. But I'm going to shuffle up, grab 3 for him. We're going to look through these cards real quick, see if there's anything that we can probably use. We have Powerful Blow, which does 2, but after the enemy attacks, we have to discard this card, or sorry, the last card in the chain. So even if I want to, I could play another one. Oh, wow, I got 2 Powerful Blows. Can't go over those. And Defend. Defend allows me to place 1 time on this card, and when I remove the time, I get to draw a card. Also, when the enemy attacks, all the party members get to prevent 2 damage coming through. Now, this one does have an attack when you have 4 or 5 cubes where it's going to hit all party members for 2 damage. So we might want to get that card ready for those particular instances, or we could just get this one ready for it. We also have a simple hex. If you are fighting a purple encounter, gain an extra purple die. Well, or I'm sorry, extra red cube, but sadly we're not fighting a purple enemy. Then we have Careful Attack, where I can play this in my chain and things like that. And when the monster activates, it's going to lose 1 less cube. If you notice, some of the things the monster can do is lose cubes. So if we put it at 3, and this is the last one in the chain, this particular attack would, or ability, I'm sorry, would go off, which would be really beneficial in this particular instance. Again, quickly going over the steps for combat. We did draw our 3 cards. We do have to check the enemy trait. Remember, the enemy does have a trait called exhaustive, which means we're going to have to discard the top of our deck card for our enemy or our heroes as soon as this activates. Whenever it activates, we have to discard the top card of our deck. We're going to go through our, we have to pick an active character, which then will do our delayed abilities, which will then allow us to play 1 card. We can play 1 card and we can play multiples as long as we're able to link that particular bonus to them. So let's go ahead and start our combat. The first card we're going to play is Gerdwin's Powerful Blow. This is really a good card to play kind of near the end, but I don't have a lot of options right now. And this is going to do 3. So we're going to give ourselves 3 on the combat track right now, which will help us quite a bit. That's the only thing I'm going to play because absolutely nothing can link with it. There is nothing over here that links with it. And this also does not link with that particular card. But of course, before we play, I do have to place this on Gerdwin's board so that we know that she has activated. And now that I'm done, we have to discard the top card of Gerdwin's deck, which was her Silver Bolt. That's too bad. That's a pretty good card. I liked it last time. Then we have to do what it says here. After this activation, I have to remove the last card in the row there. So we're going to remove that. And if we look here, with 3, it's going to lose 1. So we're going to tick this back down to 2, which means we have to do at least 1 damage to it. Otherwise, it's going to do 3 damage and 2 terror to somebody, which is not going to be good. Now that is Gerdwin, so that means Elgin has to go next. So Elgin will take a time token and figure out what he's going to do. I got a great idea. Elgin doesn't have the greatest cards. He's going to just play Defend, which is at least going to soak up some of this damage he's about to take. It's not going to be good. I get to place a time token down on this card. And at this point, I'm going to go to the enemy step. There's really nothing more I could link. I mean, I don't even think I can link any of this stuff. I don't have any aggression, and I don't really want to use magic. There's not even a magic link there. But so there's really nothing I could do. I could put down a couple of these cards, giving me the ability to get to like 4 of these, but then 4 doesn't really help me. And I need 3. So it's a really cool puzzle how this all forms together. So what I really thought was going to be a great idea actually turned out to be just a pretty nominal, boring, basic idea here. We're going to defend, and I am going to prevent 2 damage, meaning I'm going to gain 1 damage and 2 terror. So we'll take our 1 damage and we'll gain 2 terror. I also have to discard the top card of my deck, which means I lose Fiery Shaman, which looks like it would have been way better than about half the cards I have in my hand right now. That brings us to the end of the round, and we have resolved our attack for enemy encounter card. We're going to check readiness. Well, if each party member has activated, go to the phase 5. Discard down to 3 cards. Draw a card. Skip this if you panic. I'm going to clear my activations, remove all the time tracks from my characters, and start a new turn. Go to phase 1. So we'll take off both of our time tokens on our characters, and we can decide which one wants to go. Now remember, we only have 2 cards in each other's hands, so we're going to draw a card for each of our characters. Gerdwin has drawn herself Reposition, which is not going to help at all. And Elgin has bought Poisonous Candle. Oh, I remember this card. This card's really good. I got to find a way to make this activate faster. We're going to start with Elgin this time. We're going to put a time token on his character board, and we are going to start by removing our time token to draw a card. Hopefully he gets, remember we got a couple of those sparks in there. Hopefully that's one of the cards. Yeah, we got spark. That's super good. I have no reason not to play Poisonous Candle now. There's absolutely no reason not to play this. So we're going to play our Poisonous Candle card. Now sadly it does us nothing technically, but I do get to place 3 counters on this card, and I'm going to be able to do 3 cubes when I can get rid of them all. And you bet we are going to be connecting this spark card next. I could spend my magic to do 1 if I wish to, but I don't think I'm going to. It says when I play this card, I can remove 1 from a candle card. If you remove the last one, I'm going to resolve the ability. We're only going to remove the 1. There's still 2 there. Next, I'm going to play this card. I can connect it with my practicality because I do have 1 in that. Sadly, I do not have 2 courage, so I don't get the extra bonus here, but that's okay. This means it's going to lose 1 less cube. Right now, it's not losing any cube. It's actually doing 3 damage and terror, which is going to be terrible. So what I'm going to do next is link this. Oh, I can't link this. I don't have the link card here. Oh, darn. Well, there went that plan. I think instead, I can't link this card either. I think what I'm going to do instead is I am going to spend my magic then to activate that, to give myself 3. I can't afford to take all that damage. So we are going to go to 3 on the combat dial, spending my magic to activate that cube, since I don't have really anything else I can do about that, which is sad. So we're going to discard that. That's going to be the end. I'm going to discard the top card of my deck. Hopefully it's not another spark. I really need it. What's this? Reposition. That is fine. Okay, we got to reposition. I'm not fleeing. I'm going for this guy. That's the end of my turn. I do have to deal with this, which is mean I'm going to lose a cube. I'm going to go down to 2. I need some real big power cards to come flying in here pretty soon. We'll move over to Gerdwin. Gerdwin is going to grab a token and play some cards. Now at the start, I should remove one of these time tokens. We'll remove that time token for Gerdwin. And if I play Powerful Blow, which I certainly can, it's going to do 3 damage, 3 cubes, which is going to bring this to 5, which means all party members are going to take 2 damage. I think that's what we're going to do. We're going to go up to 5 on this track, which is going to be just fine. It's not fine, but it'll do its job. So everybody's going to take, so that's going to be the end of this person's action. This card is going to get removed. Now, I don't believe when you remove it, this card activates again, because I didn't just place it, it just becomes revealed again. We're going to remove this card when we move to the enemy activation. Also, we are going to discard the top card of her deck. She's going to discard a defend. Each of us is going to take 2 damage. This is where it gets a little hairy. 1, 2, we're going down to 5. At this point, we get to both draw a card. We have another spark card and a disabling bolt. Where were you just a little while ago? I'd love to have both those cards way earlier in the battle. It's going to go into, I think we're just going to have Elgin go. I think that's going to be our best plan here. Elgin's just going to discard this. That's going to put 3 more on here, which will bring this to 8. And in that circumstance, we can check to see if we've won. We have more than 7. We have defeated this enemy. We are going to be able to grab the win condition here, our conclusion. We're going to grab ourselves 3 food. Oh, we got 3 food, but it was kind of a little bit of a tough battle to be able to gain that much food. But, 3 food, 3 good food. I like food. Food's really good. So we'll divide these up. I'll give Elgin 2 and 1 to Gerdwin. And then we're going to take all these cards, split them back into the 2 decks. They're based on the characters. And that'll be the end of this battle. That worked out really well. Now, since this was not a remove from play card, we are just going to put it right on the bottom of our deck. And we may come across it again sometime. We'll take our discard pile and our draw pile, shuffle it all back together so that it is all set for our next battle. I'm 2 spaces away, 1, 2 from this Guardian. So we're going to take on this Guardian. It's going to cost us 2 energy each, dropping Elgin to 2, and it's going to bring Gerdwin to 3. Now, Gerdwin has a super cool power. For 1 energy, I can challenge a combat Guardian in your or a connected location. I can challenge it, which means we can start the encounter and gain 1 or 2 cubes at the start of the encounter. So we're already going to start with 2 cubes against this monster. Super cool. Normally, as an action, it costs you nothing to challenge a Guardian. But like I said, with her great ability, I'm able to start with 2 on our combat dial. And I guess we're going to try the combat dial again, just because it's sitting there ready to go. We're going to see what we can do against this Hex Leech. We're going to draw our 3 cards. The first ones we're going to draw are for Gerdwin. Gerdwin has Steel. Oh, this is a new one, the Steel Drawstring. I can place 2 charges in the card, pay 1 charge. You may treat the free key for the next played card as if it were ×2. Oh my gosh, that's so good. I want to try to play it right away, because then I can make that ×2. Oh no, look, none of my free keys down here have cubes, otherwise I get ×2. Oh, that's too sad. All right, then we also have Charge, and we have Disabling Bolt. Disabling Bolt allows me to gain some more damage to the enemy. The other one allows me to, when the enemy goes to its turn, I'm going to take 1 extra damage. That's no good. Now, of course, you can cover this, you could play this and then find a way to cover it up, and then you wouldn't have to deal with that outcome, which actually, that actually works right there. I might actually start with that. I have no reason not to start with that. That's actually pretty awesome. And then I could maybe finish it off with this. Well, I can't play this right now because I need to have a connect something. But first, who knows? Elgin might have some great cards too. Elgin's going to look at his card. He has Fiery Smash. I can place a charge on, or a time counter on this. When the time counter is gone, I get to gain damage to the person. We have Gather Thoughts. I can place a time card on this thing. When I remove the time card, I also lose a red cube, but at that point I get to draw 2 cards, so that's pretty awesome. And the last one is my Poisonous Candle, which might be a nice one to play out as well. Now I have to remember, the only slot I have that I can work with against this Hex Leech is the Courage slot. The monster doesn't have any type of traits that we're going to have to deal with. So we're just going to pick the active character, and we are going to start with Gerdwin. Gerdwin is going to take one of the time tokens, and she is going to play that charge card. She can play the charge card here, and I do have the one I need in courage, or sorry, in practicality to be able to get my 1 cube. So that's going to go up to 3. And then I am going to cover up that charge card so I don't have to deal with it. Now, sadly, none of my cards have cubes down here. Otherwise, it'd be really awesome. This one is going to be able to link because I do have the aggression, but I also have one of my courage things here. So I'm going to be able to gain yet again another one, which brings me to 4. And this one says I get to gain 1 or 2 if I'm in a two if I'm in a 1-player game, and 1 if I'm in a 1-player game. I'm going to do that. I'm going to gain 1 more, bringing it up to 5. Now, the interesting thing is, if you look at this, 5, it's going to say that this enemy is going to run away, but it won't be able to run away because this says the enemy cannot run. Now, sadly, I am all going to lose 1 magic when the enemy attacks. So maybe this isn't the best plan. I could still go back down to 4 and keep be charged zone. I'd take another damage. So I'd take 1 damage and I would lose 1 cube, bringing it down to 3, and then I have to somehow get it back to 6. I think in the long run it's going to be okay because I'm going to gain 2 magic when we win this combat. So I am going to be able to put another cube on there. So I'm going to go to 5, and that means that I'm going to have to deal with this. Everybody loses 1 magic. Now, I can't lose a magic for Elgin because I don't have any there. So I don't think anything happens to him. But I am going to lose 1 magic for Gerdwin, and the monster is going to run away, but the enemy cannot run away thanks to my disabling shot. We're going to go into Elgin's turn, and Elgin's just going to smash this thing. Smash, smash, smash real good. It's at 5. Let's do this. I've got courage, and I've got the 1 extra down here. That's going to bring this to 7, 6, 7, which is going to be enough easily to take this guy out. He's going to go to 6. We have took this guy out in 1 turn. Oh my gosh, that was so cool. I got him down so fast. That was really awesome. We're going to gain 2 magic. So like I said, we're going to get our magic back for defeating him, and we're even going to gain 1 food. We're going to give the food to Elgin. He's going to have 2 food. Oh, I think I put everybody should have 2 food, and everybody is going to have 1 magic. So we'll give Gerdwin 1 of the magic, and we'll give Elgin the other magic. Oops, it fell into the experience spot here. Let's put it in the magic spot if I can grab it. There we go. All right, now we're going to shuffle up our combat deck and get it ready for the next round. I shouldn't say next round. I should just say next time we go into a combat. So we're going to give this a good truffle shuffle. We got some really good cards that time. That was really good. That worked out really well. It's fun to see how it all connects sometimes. And sometimes it's kind of a struggle to kind of get our characters to work together. Now remember, I could mulligan at any time. And maybe in one of the combats, I maybe should have mulliganed at one point. But I did not. That's okay. We're going to move into the next round. I think what I'm going to do is I am going to look at that location we're in. Because remember, we have hopefully the way to get our reward now. Also, I should mention, because we defeated our enemy, it goes on to the bottom of the encounter deck. In the Shunned Lands, we've read this already. We can decide what we want to do. We want to go to the windmill, so I'm going to have Elgin use an energy, bringing him down to 1 to go to the windmills. We have also looked at this before. This time we're going to go through here, and we do have Negotiator Part 1, but we also have Song of Avalon Part 1, which is what we're going to activate first. I think you go in the order of these. So I don't have Sharp Truth, but I do have Song of Avalon, so I'm going to go to verse 14. The top states, if you have Curios Part 4, there's nothing more. Exploration ends. Otherwise, we'll read on. And we do not have that. So it says here, after their lost daughter miraculously returned, the family in the windmill decided to not tempt fate anymore and moved out. They left a small note thanking you for your deed, as well as a very small reward. I'm going to gain 1 wealth. Now, this one does say per character, so every one of us is going to gain 1 wealth. That's going to be super cool. I like it when it says per character. Also down here, it says that each character is going to lose 2 terror. That's going to bring Elgin's terror down to 1, but Gerdwin does not have any. At this point, we're also going to continue and gain 1 consumable. So we'll draw our consumable and see what we have found. We have found a weird candle. That's really weird. I can make those. Why don't we just get something fun? This one says for no energy, I can disperse the weirdness. Discard this to flip the location you're in or connected location. And of course, you could do that and you can go and explore some locations next to you. Like we could have done that for chord 104, and I'll show you that on the board in a second. And if we did that, we might learn some new things. But for now, I'm going to hold on to that card. And of course, if it's not touching a waystone, when you go to the end of day and move into the next day, somewhere during those times, you're going to have to flip that card back over. We're going to gain the Curios Part 4 status, and if you have the Curios Part 10 status, exploration ends. Otherwise, I am going to read on. So off camera, I'm just going to fill in Curios number 4. Oh, and then we'll decide to look and see if we have Curios number 10. Now I did look, and it does look like we have Curios number 10. So our exploration is going to end here. We're not going to continue on in the book. Also, this will be a great time to rest. I'm going to remove our miniature from the board. And this is the one I'm talking about. If we decided to, if we were here, I could use the weird candle to flip this location, and it would be there for the remainder of that day. But of course, if we're on it when it flips back, we'd probably have to deal with this when it starts the start of our day. We'd gain some terror and things of that nature. But we're not there. We're down here. We're going to end for the day and move into the next day. Our characters are going to gain back their energy, and all the way to 6. I am going to eat a food, which is going to heal me and give me back an extra energy and lower my terror. I just want to make sure I keep myself going strong. It's really going to help Elgin quite a bit, because first he would gain the energy, then we would eat our food, if I can pick it up off the board there, and then we're going to move this up and gain an energy and lose a terror. The rest of the card is not going to pertain to many stuff. I did the rest and I ate, or did the recovery. I'm not going to suffer weirdness. I could do the experience. I can modify my dex. And if I'm in a location with this, I can read the visions. None of that's going to happen. So we're going to move back to the top by removing any time tokens, flipping any cards, activating Guardian, which we actually took out. And we're going to clear active events in the area that aren't this, which are all there. The one that's there is this. And then we're going to reveal and read a new event card. Now, sadly, I ruined this Guardian's Day before I could show you exactly how they work. What you do during the Guardian's activation, you're going to roll a die, and based on what, I should say, symbol you roll, it's going to do something. For example, it would move east. Now, of course, if it can't move in that direction, it would move to the lowest one that it can. So it actually would move up to 102. If it rolls an X, there's multiple things that this Guardian could do. The first thing is, if it's in a location and we did actually have one of our characters here, then it would resolve the encounter against those characters. If I was in a location with a waystone, it would fade this waystone. And if there's multiple waystones that it's touching, like say it was up here, it would remove the one that's touching the lowest numbered card, which would be that one. Defeating Guardians, I've noticed after seeing what they can do, is something you really want to try to take advantage of if you know you could defeat them. I had a pretty good chance against that Hex Wraith or Hex creature here, Hex Worm I think it was. So I was really quick to try to get down here the fastest I could. Also, I want you to know that if you are in a space with a Guardian, say this was in this predicament here, I couldn't explore this location at all. I would have to wait till he either moves out or we defeat him. All right, that's the end. I do have to remove one of the time tokens from the Stone Chorus location, and then we get to move into the next day by drawing our card. It's the only thing we really have left. This one states, "The brand burns." It says here, "The brand the King's Seekers burns, urging you onward, threatening to turn your bones into ash should you forsake your search. Fade the waystone farthest from all characters. Gain one part of the time passes status. If you have 3 or more parts of the status, go to 77. Put this card back on top of the event deck, then place 5 random events, -1 per character, on top of it. Hint, if you let too many days pass, the Kinseeker's brand will begin to burn hotter, and some story interactions may change as a result of passing time." All right, we'll take care of all of that. The first thing is we have to fade that waystone. It is the farthest from us. Then on the back of our status, we are going to mark in the Time Passes Chapter 1 here. So we're going to fill that in right there. That is, as you can see, there are multiple time passes on this particular chapter and all the other chapters going forward. It does say that losing some of these as you go forward isn't detrimental. It's kind of supposed to be part of the game, but losing too many, like it said in the hint card, may become detrimental and really start taking its toll on your party. Now, of course, I marked all of this in. You're really only supposed to color in the one part right down here. but I kind of got color happy there. So we're going to erase a little bit of that. There we go. And then that shows you how much time has passed so far. Next, we're going to take that Chapter 1, Part 5 card right there, put on top of the deck. We're going to take this massive random event deck, give it a good old truffle shuffle, and we're going to place, I think it said 5 of them on top of here. We'll check again the card really quick to make sure we get the right number on there, but I believe it was 5. Let's take a look. It does say right here, place 5 random events, -1 per character. So we have 2 characters, so that'd be 3 random events. We'll put 1, 2, 3 out there just like that, and those are going to be the ones we're going to deal with now moving forward. It is now our turn to freely move. I'm going to spend 2 energy for both of our characters, and we're going to move 1, 2 over to the stone circle, and we're going to take a look at that location. Now, if I want to be bold, I could go over here and use that candle and check it out, but I think I want to go over here and see what happens with the stone chorus. Here's the stone chorus. Now, I will admit, I've been recording this over a couple days, and I can't remember if we actually been here. I don't think we have, so kind of funny that I went here but didn't actually investigate this. Well, here's a picture of the stone chorus, and if I did investigate it, well, there's the picture again. They say the weirdness, when left to its own devices, slowly transforms even the land itself. You know of no better proof than this place. The basalt walls of the narrow pass display warped, inhumane faces of stone, their mouths agape. The salty coastal winds carries their voices to faraway places. What strange song do they sing? So here we are, we can make a choice. We can use 2 energy to make an offering to the chorus. I can pay a food and a wealth. Small sacrificial bowl sits in front of the figures. You wonder why. Go to verse 5. I can search the woods below the chorus. Go to verse 2. I can listen to the song of the chorus. Only if there is no time on this location. There is a time token on this location, so I cannot do that. And the other one is sing with them. Go to verse 1. Now remember, we did get that song that we have, so I think we're going to give this, though we've already used the tag somewhere else in this adventure, so I'm not sure if it's going to work. But let's sing with them and see if it actually works. Now before we do that, look at this. There's a red thing here. Maybe we should just do the red thing. I think we'll do the red thing. Why wouldn't we do that? Dive into the sea. Oh, it requires one of the other characters to go to the Book of Secrets 397. So I guess we can't do that one. So yes, we are going to sing with them. We'll go to verse 1. We have another thing that we can look at, but it's not going to be able to use this one. So there must be a way to gain another way to reveal these particular passages here. So I don't have any way of doing that yet. I haven't found it in the game, and honestly, I don't even think it was in my box. Unless it's somewhere I didn't know about. It says here, if you have the Song of Avalon Part 1 status, go to verse 4, otherwise read on. So we do have that. Let's go to verse 4. The chorus loves your new song. It joins you with all its strength. Your voice and the voices of 100 stone throats rising in unison far above the trail and echoing from the mountains surrounding the pass. You lose yourself in the singing. You are a part of something different now, ancient and primal. And you find it impossible to stop singing even when your ears begin to bleed and the stone walls above you start to crack. For miles around, people panic and flee, hearing your mighty anthem. The silence comes only after you collapse to the sound of breaking rocks. Each character in all connected locations lose 1 health and gain 1 terror. Oh, barf. All right, so guys got that. So that means Elgin is going to go down to 4 health. Or sorry, Gerdwin's going to go to 4 health. Elgin's at 3, and they're both going to go to 1 terror. Let's continue on. Replace location 103 with 103B side up, which is the revealed side up, and remove location 103. If 105B is attached to the top of this location, exploration ends. Otherwise, I get to read on. So I'm going to read on real quick, and then we'll take care of the 103. It says, go to Book of Secrets, verse 164. Okay, before we read that, I am going to switch out that location. We'll remove 103 and replace it with 103B. It says here, it has the same power, and it says the faces have cracked and fractured. The chorus will never sing again. But we do get to place it revealed side up, and I'm going to place my token right back on top. It says, congratulations, you completed your quest. Just like that, poof. It says replace location 105 with 105B, an abandoned camp, and remove 105 from the game. If your active quest card is Chapter 1, Part 1, each character gains 2 experience points. Ours is not not. Ours is Chapter 1, Part 6. Chapter 1, Part 1 was this quest. I don't know how you could ever gotten to it without having Part 1, 6 come into play, but there must have been a way to do it, and I just missed it. Otherwise, each character is going to gain 1 experience points, which brings our total experience points for our characters up to 4. So we'll have to figure out a way to spend these and what we're going to do with them. After this, we're going to discard my active quest. This was my active quest. I'm going to get rid of it. It was 1/6. We're then going to find and resolve Chapter 1, Part 7 card, but I am not going to change this deck. The random events are still going to stay on top, but I'm going to grab Chapter 1, Part 7, because it says here, do not change the structure of the rest of the deck. So this now says, place this card in your active events area. The high mountain range to the north and the crooked milestone beside the trail all point to the same joyous conclusion. You're nearing your destination. Quest: continue your travel north and reach the King's Pass, number 110. Hint: if you feel tired, remember you can save your game at any moment through saving in moments hindered by an exploration journal will make a teardown and setup easier. All right, so that is a good thing to know, because I think we will be saving our game and we'll be continuing this live with Colin in the future. This is a good moment to pause your game. Let's do the same thing. Save your game and finish for now, or continue on. We do have a new lead. The breaking of the chorus chased away the brigands from a camp further up the road. The trail to King's Pass is now open. Your exploration ends. We'll also be replacing this with a new card, 105B, Abandoned Camp. Notice the difference there. There is no camp, where in here there was a camp. All right, this one states down at the bottom, abandoned camp tools and wheels mark are the last mementos of events that transpired here. We'll place this right up here, and I think this will be a great time to save the game, so I'm going to quickly go through how that happens. The first thing we're going to do is take out our Tainted Grail Kings of Ruin save sheet. Up at the top here, it says time and quest markers in locations. We do have one in location 103B. We have 1 time. So I'll make sure we remember to put that out when we start the game again. Also, we put down any of our companions, any Kings of Ruins out there, any of the Guardians that are out on the board, but of course, we got rid of them all. We also are going to mark where our waystones are. So there is a waystone that is touching 101 and is also touching 102 and 103B. 102 and 103B. We're going to write those out, and it's sitting right in the middle there, just like that. We also have one at 106. Looks like a 1 there. 105B. We also have it touching 102, and it's touching 103B. The save sheet does give me the ability to put in any type of player notes I want to, but I'm not going to. Well, I don't need to take notes. I'm super good at this game. No, good thing is I have a video record of what we did. So if I need to, I can go back and rewatch my own video and find out all the things I need to remember going forward when we actually do play this live with Colin in the future. Now we need to place down all the stuff for our characters here. So the first person we have is Elgin, E-L-G-A-N. He is in location 103B. And for skills, he doesn't have any skills. I think I'm supposed to put down how many little things I have in these. So I'll place down that I have 1 here, I have 1 here, I have 1 in empathy, and I've got 2 in spirituality. I have 1 terror. I've got a total of 1, 2, 3 health and 4 energy. I get to write in how many of these I have. I have 1, 1, 4, and 1 for our magic. I'm also going to write down the items I have. I have a weird candle, which I'll make sure to write down. We have the brand of the King's Seeker, and we have a re-melted candle. So that's cards 4 and 8, and this is just going to be one of the consumable cards. For Gerdwin, I have wrote down everything that she has, the 5 experience, the 1 wealth, 1 food, 1 magic, all the stats over here and where she has her skills. And I've also wrote down both of the items we have. Now, when you go to store this in the box, of course, all this is going to disappear. You can't keep this, all of this is going to fly all over. They don't have a way of holding this all together. So we're going to have to reset up all this. But in the box itself, it does have a place to be able to put your combat and your neck, and you can even place your items with your characters. So in case in case you didn't write all those down, they are going to be having a place for them. But if you wanted to reset this and be able to play with a friend of yours, you have everything written on that save sheet, so you can always play multiple sets of this game, just as long as you keep using that save sheet to remind yourself of where you are. Now, when we set this game up, I'll know to put these cards out on the table, but I might forget about these. I might not remember to put those out, and that's going to be totally fine as long as you're in the place where these waystone markers are, because again, this isn't really where we've done a lot of this over here. Of course, we never did explore this location, so maybe coming back here at some point might be kind of cool. So maybe at the beginning, when we play with Colin, we might think, hey, let's go over here and see what this is. I'll put this back down and be like, oh yeah, there's that place I never went. But do know that when you're writing down on the save sheet, it only asks you for where the places are for your waystone locations, not the other cards that you had out on the table. So there you have it. There is our first chapter in the Tainted Grail. That was super cool. Now, of course, it doesn't really think, I'm not sure we're really done. And we are still on chapter 1. We're on part 7. So we still have to try to get to the reach the King's Pass, which is card 110. Now, of course, that could be one card away. I'm guessing it might be one card away, because if you look up here, we're at card 109 going up into this area. But of course, that 109 could go to a dead end. I don't know exactly what's going to happen. We'll have to see in the future. Now, like I said, Colin and I have decided that this will be the game that we're going to be going forward playing live. But right now, at the time of this recording, we are playing through another game called Primal right now. Once we're done with that, we are going to be returning to this Tainted Grail, and by then I'll make sure all these miniatures are all painted up. I apologize for the gray miniatures out here, but at the time of this recording, I am still planning to do a painting video to be able to showcase some of these great sculpts that you see on here once they get all painted up. I think they're going to look really, really miraculous. Now, of course, the Awakened Realms company does provide a Sundrop pledge for you as well if you're interested in picking that up. And I would like to thank the Awakened Realms crew for sending me out a full copy of this game so I can show you this game in all of its glory with everything it has to offer. Now, if you did enjoy the playthrough, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell symbol so you know when more Tainted Grail comes out for the Kings of Ruin. Also, please feel free to leave anything in the comments below. I would love to hear from everyone. If you're interested in helping out how I should maybe level up my characters, please give me some ideas. I have 4 experience points. I could either maybe grab some new skill points, or I could advance my combat or diplomacy deck. Give me some ideas of what you think might be best for our 2 characters. If you're interested in supporting the channel, the link to the Patreon is located in the description of this video. Those that have joined the Patreon are located here on the screen. Thank you so much for your patronage. It means the world to me. The perks that our Patreon supporters get, they get to watch our playthrough videos usually about a day or 2 ahead of time without commercial interruptions. On top of that, they get to help us decide how we do our games going forward. For example, the 2 characters we played with here were voted on by my Patreons, and those are the 2 that got the highest votes. Also, moving forward, I may ask them for some help on how to level up these characters so that the Patreon supporters get a chance at deciding how the game unfolds for us. So there you have it. That is the Tainted Grail, Kings of Ruin. This game is awesome. I hope you were able to stay with me for the entire playthrough. It was quite a long playthrough, but I enjoyed every minute of it. I can't wait to dig back into this game. This game is absolutely phenomenal. I had such a great time playing Tainted Grail, Fall of Avalon, and now Kings of Ruin has fallen into our laps at long last, and this is going to be fantastic. I can hardly wait to see what transpires. Now, if you're excited to see more Tainted Grail, Kings of Ruin, or anything else Colin and I have coming up, then I need you to meet me at the table.